what no other bread tuber has done. Many have tried, chat. Many a video essay has been written about one Vosh Vidya, trying to take him down, trying to shine some light into his darkness and show his community the way out. The way to real community, the way to real leftism, the way to real solidarity. And yet it's been to no avail. It's been to no avail. And sometimes it's been kind of cringy. I'll be honest, right? I've seen some cringy takedowns of Vosh that I'm just like, what are you even doing, right? Full-throated endorsement from Crotchy. I'm going to simplify stuff. Have you liked the stream yet? Your answers are yes or capital Y-E-S. And then what else do we want to do? We want to put the link for Twitch and the link for YouTube into the shorts chat. Full screen. It's here or... All right, we're good. We're good. Wait. I know how to do a freaking web address, and it's not with an... oh my god, chat, you don't know how tired I am. I think I fucked up on my edit of the video today. It wasn't supposed to be as long as it was. I meant to edit more out. Oh, no. Let's try that again. See, I can tell I'm tired. Twitch /com/ That's what I'm trying to type. There it is. And the pinned message. We're good. We're good. Okay. So let's get ready to get going. We got a lot to cover. And like I said, if we hit that dono goal, which we are already 11% of the way to, right? This is just for extra content, right? I'm not trying to twist your arms. If you don't have money to donate, don't donate money. Keep it for yourself. Keep it for your family. Keep it for the people that you need to take care of, right? You can always support me by hitting that like button. There's so many different ways you can support me on YouTube and on Twitch and on Patreon, which reminds me, I've got Patreons to thank. Yes, I do. In fact, I think I've got some new Patreons to acknowledge today. If you sign up for my Patreon, you will get a fancy shout out if you are at the second tier or above. That's $5 or above. You get a fancy shout out along with your Patreon membership, and I'm about to do read those fancy shout outs right now. Shouts out to Omega Star. Shouts out to Just Julie. Shouts out to Jules K. Shouts out to Moe Nope. Shouts out to Shakespeare. Shouts out to Funky Monkey. And shouts out to Temporal Insanity. And shouts out to me taking my sweet time getting this shit together. Here we go.
I know I start so many segments lately with a similar idea, which is we are seeing something now that you rarely see in American politics or just politics generally, which is a shift.
I'm guessing that's because you found that to be algorithmically advantageous. This is Luke Beasley, by the way. Luke Beasley on YouTube. You can subscribe. It's this channel right here. Hit this button and hit... Oh my god, come on. This button. And then... So yeah, Luke's actually got some bad news for the Trump campaign. Let's see what this is about.
In momentum, so dramatic, it's hard to really process that it's happening.
I was saying this myself, right? It's what a difference a couple months make, right? A couple months ago, everybody was just doomer, doomer, doomer. Be normal, chat. Okay, yeah, definitely be normal. But it's changed, and now the doomer energy seems to be on the right. The parting on the left is now the parting on the right, and the beards appear no longer overnight. That's a song lyric or something, I think.
One person
I'm not sure what it means.
Who's struggling to process that this is all happening is Donald Trump himself. And I have some reporting about behind the scenes, how much Trump is losing his mind.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. And we kind of experienced this ourselves, right? We listened to the Elon Musk, Donald Trump. It was supposed to be a live stream. It was supposed to be this big celebratory thing. Like Elon was pumping this. Elon was posting pictures of women like bent over with the Twitter icon on their butt, and Trump as like a priest or a monk, like praying for celibacy, praying to be led away from temptation, right? And like that idea, like Trump is gonna get horny and start posting on Twitter, and he did. He's back on Twitter. Elon got him back on Twitter, and it was going to be there were all these hashtags. We are so back, baby. These chuds were so excited. They felt like this might be a big change in momentum. They felt like, okay, we finally got Elon together with Trump. These are our two heroes. They're going to get together and they're going to form Voltron. But they didn't. Instead, they formed DeSanctimonious. And this was the most DeSanctimonious stream you could imagine. It wouldn't come on at first. People couldn't get into the stream. It wasn't working. All this infrastructure for Twitter to become a live streaming platform, and yet the CEO of Twitter and the former president of the United States are unable to make a stream actually happen. And so Elon starts saying, "Oh yes, we're being DDoSed. The extreme left, George Soros, they're DDoSing us, and they don't want Trump to speak his truth." But finally, he did speak his truth, and he spoke his truth with his fucking dentures falling out of his mouth or something. Now, somebody in chat said that they work in elderly care and that they recognized the sounds that Trump was making, the way that Trump was speaking, as being possibly indicative of a stroke. Obviously, you can't diagnose somebody just by listening to them speak, but there is something going on with Trump. And I think that what Beasley's got here might actually speak to that. So let's see what his theory is.
Over the fact that Harris is pulling ahead and his campaign seems to be collapsing. But for context, I do want to give you some of the data on this. The dramatic swing, it's not just a vibe, but as we've been following, it is showing up in the data. So before getting to how Trump's reacting to this, here is this.
CNN senior data reporter Harry Etten is here. So Harry, what's the simplest answer for why things have changed so much?
Sometimes I feel like we make these stories giantly complicated, and sometimes we can just simplify it by this. Who is better liked, right? What is the net favorable view of these different candidates? And
I've been saying this for a long time, right? Since 2016, U.S. politics, both parties have had a likability issue. When Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were the ones nominated, you've got two profoundly weak candidates. You got two historically unpopular candidates. Now, you could say that maybe Donald Trump's got more natural charisma, at least for the right wing. For some reason, right wingers, they see this guy and they love what they see. They want to just pull him in and give him a big smooch, right? And he wants to smooch their flag. He wants to hump their flag. And JD Vance wants to hump their couch. But yeah, for the rest of us, he's just kind of gross and weird and like, it's like my initial reaction was, you don't put a reality show host in the White House. That is silly. To think that somebody that was only ever good playing a boss on a reality show, not being a boss in real life, because everything that he touches as far as business actually turns to shit. Look at his real estate business. Look at his casino business. Chad, do you know how hard it is to lose money in the casino business? Well, it's not hard for Trump. He was able to do it. He had to be bailed out by his daddy. So, he's not just like he's not just not only is he not a good businessman, which is what his brand is, which is what the show's about, which is how it presents him, which like Trump, it's expensive, it's good, it's nice, it's successful, right? But he is actually none of those things. And yeah, as far as a businessman, he's not on the top of the curve, he's not on the middle of the curve, he's on the bottom, right? He actually, for what he was given, he hasn't really done that much with it. So isn't there a parable in the Bible about that? I don't know, and neither does Trump because he doesn't read the Bible. He does read Mein Kampf, though, apparently. Anyway, we can talk about that on another day, though, because we're looking at likability between the tickets, and we've got one ticket that look. Let me explain to you how this works. Like in general, when you introduce a candidate to a ticket, when you start running a candidate, nobody really knows about them, and all you've got is their commercials, their brand, how they present themselves. They'll have a favorable rating. If they win the general election, they'll start with a favorable rating. But as they go along, they make decisions, and some people don't like that decision. And so, in general, the likability goes down, 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 down. And this is both true of a president and a vice president. So for Harris to actually have gone from being fairly unpopular, I mean, she was popular when she first went into office, but the honeymoon didn't last very long. She was underwater. She was in the red, just like Donald Trump and JD Vance. For her to kind of climb back up is pretty phenomenal. And I think it's indicative of excitement. And part of that excitement stems from how sick people are of Trump, how much of a coalition that there is forming of just like, get this guy out. I don't want to see this guy again. I'm done with this guy. I don't want another 4 years of Trump. I don't want another 2020. I don't want to put this guy in charge. I don't want to take a risk of him being dictator on day one. I don't want to take a risk of him never leaving the office. I don't want to see what's going to happen if he gets put in another emergency like he did with COVID. And, see how phenomenally he can fail there too, right? People are starting to say no. And that's where you're seeing Harris's numbers go up. Waltz is new to the ticket. That's a fresh face, right? And it looks good so far. He's a coach. He's a dad. He was in the military. These are all things that Americans tend to like. He's charismatic. He's dunking on Trump and Vance, right? He's doing well, right? Trump and Vance, though, are not doing well. And Trump, you can understand. Everybody knows Trump. Trump has been in the White House for 4 years. 1 year was particularly bad. 2020 was a particularly bad year for Donald Trump and a bad year for the country. So it's understandable why Trump is way underwater. JD Vance, though, that's a little bit of a mystery. This is not how it usually works. They introduced the guy. There's like, he's the hillbilly elegy guy. He understands the hill folk. He understands and I mean, in real life, he doesn't, he was making fun of, those people in that book. And, he's a nasty guy in a lot of different ways, but Americans should not know this yet. And yet somehow instinctively they do. And I think it's just because this guy's got like negative riz. And so that's what we're looking at, right? We're looking at a very unpopular GOP ticket that people are tired of already, even though they've just met Tim Vance. And we're looking at a Democratic ticket that people are starting to warm up to. People are starting to get excited to, even though Kamala's run for president before, and she didn't do that well. She's got some weaknesses, but she's been able to turn some of those weaknesses into strengths. All of her awkwardness, all of her weird whine ant shit, right, has been transformed into a TikTok meme queen. And that is the wave that she's riding right now. Now, chat, this is not going to last forever. I'm going to be totally honest with you, all right? I mean, she may gain some more favorability, especially going into the DNC. People usually get a bounce out of the DNC, right? But I don't expect this to last forever. I think she will get hit by one or two attacks at some point that kind of, dim that excitement. But right now she's riding high, and it looks like she's going to be riding high. What do we have? I think it's next week is when the Democratic convention starts, right? She's going to be riding high all through that convention. And then maybe something will change. Maybe she'll have a bad interview. Maybe she'll have a bad debate, right? Maybe somebody, Trump will think of something to say about her that people really don't like, right? So, this will go up and down. Don't expect this to last. But right now, all of the excitement is on the Democratic side. and people are truly sick. Not everyone, because obviously there's the 30% of the country that's full on MAGA. I will not erase. There's no hog erasure here, chat. The hogs are real. They're like 30% of the population are straight up hogs, straight up red hat hogs, right? What, 65? Not 65. Let's make it 55. Let's be realistic. 55% of the country is tired of Trump and tired of his shit, and they don't like Vance right off the get-go.
Donald Trump and J.D. Vance here. We know, I've been talking about J.D. Vance's net negative favorability rating. That is, more people view him unfavorably than favorably. Donald Trump has the same thing. I will point out this is among the higher numbers for Trump, but still, he's underwater here at -7 points. Jump over.
And this is from a New York Times Siena College poll specifically.
To the Democratic side with me, if you will. Take a look here. Kamala Harris is actually better liked by more voters than she is disliked at a +2 net favorable rating. And then Tim Walz here at a
It's funny to say this because you would think that people would like their politicians, but there's something about our political process that's just rotten to the core. There's something about the people that get selected. And really, we're talking about multiple elections, right? You know about the primary, you know about the general election, but what you may not realize is that there is a combination of party insiders and donors that kind of decide an election about who's going to get talked about, who's going to have the buzz, who's going to be talked about favorably in the media, right? And that goes on, and that sort of gatekeeps a candidate that you might actually like better from a candidate that's just kind of so-so. And that's why we keep on getting served shit sandwiches for candidates. That's why we get Hillary. That's why we get Biden. That's why we get Trump.
+11 rating. It's as simple as this. Politics is about being liked, and the Democratic ticket is better liked than the Republican ticket.
And this is, I know, doesn't look like much, but it's a different type of number than you've been seeing of late.
Yeah, very different.
This guy's way too funny. And this might not look like much, folks, but trust me, a +2 for a presidential candidate, that's like unheard of.
Normally, Joe Biden was, minus like 15 points oftentimes on occasion. So you're getting +2 on the Democratic side.
And that's a huge part of this. How does Harris's popularity compare to that of the Democratic ticket before with Biden on it? And that swing and her net favorability rating, as we've reviewed, her individual swing, not to mention the Democratic ticket swing, has been so sharp and so dramatic and happening in such a short period of time, it's truly difficult to get your head around. Now, going on from that particular subject onto this.
Look at this. We see Donald Trump at 50%. Look at Joe Biden at just 40%. So Donald Trump had a 10-point lead on the issue that folks said was most important to them. They could list any issue. Jump forward now to Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. What do we see? We see a completely different ballgame. We see Harris at 50%. We see Donald Trump at 48%. Within the margin of error, but a 10-point advantage for Trump. I mean, you're going, this is the type of stuff that campaigns dream about. And for the Donald Trump, nightmares about. Look at this. Harris now with the 2-point advantage. This is significant movement. This is the type of movement that turns losers, which Joe Biden was against Donald Trump, into winners, or at least leaders in the case of Kamala Harris over Donald Trump.
And again, we don't know which issue is most important to each.
Yeah, and we talked about in a previous segment how on the issue of the economy, who is trusted more in their handling of the economy for a super long time, all of the time I can remember. Trump had a lead on Biden on that issue. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't align with the facts, but it's something we've seen all too often. The Republican Party successfully branding themselves as the effective handlers of the economy, again, despite that not matching up with the records over the last 100 years. But that's been another area where going from trailing by like 10 points or something, then swinging, and now Harris is leading in voters' trust of the two candidates on the economy. She's more trusted than Trump is based on the polling. And that's also a really good sign because we know how much the economy plays into people's voting decisions. We are getting so close to one of the most important elections in history.
Much more likely to be successful.
Anyway, chat, like I said, this is Luke Beasley. Subscribe if you want to, if you want more like this.
If it's about attributes.
Oh, shit. Now, this I want to really see, right? This is Frank Luntz. He's a pollster. He's a Republican. And he specializes in focus groups. what a focus group is, and you've probably seen this before, they bring a bunch of voters together and they ask them questions, right? In this case, I think the latest round of questions that Luntz asked was, who were you voting for between Biden and Trump, and who are you voting for now? And I don't know how this got done, but he put together a panel that's got like 20 people that were like, yeah, I was voting for Trump before, and now I'm voting for Kamala. I don't know if he's like doing the, bringing these people on together on. It seems pretty coincidental that he'd have 4 people that just completely flipped, 4 people, 20 people that completely flipped. So we'll have to look and see what the methodology was, but let's see what he has to say.
Harris is much more likely to be successful because, quite frankly, people like her more than they like him. It's something that if he's watching this right now, his head is exploding, and that's part of the problem. He has lost touch with the people that he needs, and she is in perfect touch. Look at the rallies. Look at how she relates to them. The challenge is what happens when she has a press conference. What happens when she faces people like you asking questions like yours? That's significant. She hasn't had to do it, and eventually she will be forced to do so.
Yeah, and we will see what comes of that. She has been answering questions. We'll look at this, if not in a segment today. We'll do it on the bonus show. But she has been answering some questions when she'll pass by reporters. But a full interview, that hasn't happened since she's been the nominee. A lot's been going on. It makes sense. She sort of needs to craft her whole policy proposal. A bunch of things normally you spend months doing before you announce a run. She's having to do rapidly, figuring out what the message is, where they're going to be campaigning, the strategy, all of it. And so putting this all together super quickly makes sense. She hasn't had a bunch of time for sit-down interviews, but that will happen soon, and it will be a major moment in the campaign. I have confidence in her ability to do so, though. So as you can see here, in so many ways, not to mention the metrics we've been discussing in other segments, Trump's campaign is slipping. They're losing control of the narrative. They're losing control of their own messaging. And apparently, Trump's behavior has been so unhinged lately because of this that the people around him are confused. Axios reports, don't buy the public bravado. Former President Trump's advisors are deeply rattled by his meandering, mean, and often middling public performance since the failed assassination attempt. They're pleading with him to adopt a new hard-hitting stump speech to define.
Yeah, and look, this is the thing about Trump. This is the thing about his management style, right? He is used to being surrounded by yes men, people that will ratify, people that will rubber stamp, people that will validate his every inclination, including the inclinations that are maybe harmful for him. This is the worst way to be up your own butt as a political candidate, right? This is actually really dangerous for a political candidate. This is actually really damaging. You need to be able to hear bad news. You need to be able to hear criticism. You need to be able to hear people that are maybe more tuned in to how things are really going on the ground, rather than just surrounding yourself with people that are going to tell you, no, everything's fine, Donald. You're going to win. You're going to win. Look, let me show you the Rasmussen numbers. Look at this. You're up by 1 in Rasmussen. Don't worry, Donnie. You still got it. You still got it. Rasmussen's got you up by 1, right? That's not who he should be listening to, but I mean, like, apparently he does have some advisors that are actually trying to ring the alarm bell and help him out here.
Vice President,
wake him up.
As Vice President Harris, as liberal and weak, advisors tell us, and praying he'll stop the recidivistic pool to simply improvise haphazardly.
So what they want from him is for him to get his brain back in the game. What they want for him is to kind of go off talking points, make plans, like set up strategies, be like, I think that Kamala's weaknesses are this, this, and this, right? Let's talk about the issues that people like, right? People tend to favor Donald Trump, right or wrong. I would say wrong on immigration, right? There are things that he could bring up that might actually help him more than like questioning whether Kamala is black, or comparing his crowd size at January 6th to Martin Luther King's crowd size at the "I Have a Dream" speech. He's choosing like violence over and over again, and it's not working for him.
Why it matters. Trump, who looked and felt like a clear frontrunner heading in last month's Republican convention, has fumed, stewed, and stumbled in private and public ever since. And it goes through different examples. Trump is struggling to get past his anger. A source.
Yeah, no, this is a big thing, right? As a streamer, I deal with this too. Especially dealing with dramas. We're going to be later today. It can have an effect on you, right? If you take it personally, if you take things that people say personally about you, if you take, the way things are going super personally, it can put you in a mind state that's actually not great. It can make you defensive. And in general, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for a streamer, and that's not a good thing for a politician, certainly. And so Trump is not able to deal with his reaction to the news. What that tells me is that he's in a cycle. He's in a downward spiral. He's getting feedback saying, your campaign is struggling. Your campaign's not doing as well as it was before, right? You're going down. And he's not handling that emotionally. It's driving him into this cycle where, because he's angry, because he doesn't like the news that he's getting, he comes out and he does ridiculous stuff that actually makes things worse. We saw that press conference, and what I saw was electoral self-harm that this man was doing to himself. And I think he's in a feedback loop.
Says Trump aides know he won't change because he can't change. And other details, we did get New York Times reporting as well, saying, indeed, Mr. Trump has often been in a foul mood the past few weeks. He has ranted about...
Okay, now this is the one I wanted to see if I could get more about this. Where does this come from? New York Times. Let me see if I can find this article. New York Times. Trump. Bitch. That's what I'm searching. New York Times Trump bitch. Trump call. Okay, this Vanity Fair has it. Inside the worst 3 weeks of the Donald Trump 2024 campaign. Vanity Fair has this as well. Let's take a look, see if that one maybe is not paywalled. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump reportedly called his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, a B word. The one that rhymes with itch, repeatedly, per reporting from the New York Times, based on two people who heard the remark on different occasions. Trump spokesman Stephen Chong. I feel like I talk about this guy a lot, Stephen Chong. I never show him. Let me see if I can find a picture. Stephen Chong. This is Stephen Chong. I'm only kind of showing him to you to say that he's like a big guy. He's not who you would expect as like head of the campaign, right? Spokesperson, Stephen Chong. I think he's running the campaign. Is that right? They're calling him spokesperson, right? Stephen Chong, this guy right here, denied the remark, saying it's not a language President Trump has used to describe Kamala. Now, it's not how the campaign would well, no shit, and it's not how the campaign would characterize her. But like, his campaign is leaking like a goddamn sieve.
Miss Harris. He's called her nasty on Fox and Friends and a B word repeatedly in private, according to two people who heard the remark on different occasions. His quickness to anger has left him susceptible to manipulation even among close allies, and they give.
Yeah, look, like that's the thing, is when somebody reliably reacts in anger, they're able to be manipulated. They're able to be played. They're able to be toyed with. They're able to be puppeteered by their enemies, right? You don't want to be stuck on choosing violence, as Trump seems to be.
Particular example of him just angry and sending off angry texts to a donor, a big dollar donor who wasn't acting the ways that he wanted her to. So the point is, he's losing grip. He wasn't ever that in control, as we know, but he had a little bit more campaign discipline in that there was a more consistent and clear and unfortunately effective message against Biden. Something about Harris's campaign added, or just Harris being the nominee, I should say, added with the energy.
Ooh, like he's got a certain thing. Remember how he was with Hillary? I mean, some people thought that they needed to run a guy against Donald Trump for this reason. So some people thought that there was something about the matchup between Hillary and Trump, and that there was just an internal misogyny in America that makes it impossible for somebody like Hillary to win against somebody like Trump. I would remind them that as much as I think that Hillary Clinton is a historically bad, historically weak candidate, historically flawed candidate who only got picked because she had that seniority, she had that clout within the party, she did win the popular vote. So it's not like America, just hates women. I mean, misogyny's real. Misogyny's real. Misogyny's out there. Misogyny's going to have an effect, but it's not the effect that people were saying. And you definitely don't need to react to that misogyny by, well, I guess we're going to run white dudes from now on. Right? That's not... And that's kind of... I mean, that's part of what led to Biden being the candidate. Biden is the macaroni and cheese candidate. He's like just the bland, like, average grandpa looking Democrat, candidate, right? And but no, you're not stuck with that. And people were afraid of switching Biden out. People were afraid of Biden leaving the race and Kamala being the replacement for that reason, right? They look, yeah, is there racism in America? Yeah. Is there sexism in America? Yeah. And do those forces combine to, in the evil, perfect storm known as misogynoir? Yes, that does happen. But like, if your answer to that is like, well, I guess we won't nominate any candidates that aren't we won't nominate any women. I guess we won't nominate any black people. That is not the way to go. And you're getting played that way. You're letting your perception of the country, which is probably a little bit exaggerated. Is there bias? Yes. But is it exaggerated? Also, yes.
Momentum around that campaign is sending Trump into a complete and total spiral, calling her the B word in private. Alien.
It's so weird to say the B word. I'm used to just saying the word.
And attacking.
I'm used to being called the word too.
People who are donating money to him, causing a situation where his campaign officials are worried he's going to push them out and they're not going to.
Well, yeah. So here's what can happen, right? And this was starting to happen to Biden. If donors lose confidence in a candidate's ability to win, in other words, if they feel like they're sending bad money after good, they'll pull their money out and they'll start spending it on, say, Senate races or congressional races or down ballot somewhere, governor's races, right? They'll start finding a better, use for their money. If they feel like a presidential candidate is doomed, they will 100% pull their money and try to use it to at least, get the Congress that they want.
Don't donate to him anymore, which would put him in an even worse situation politically and financially. And all of this, really, as people have mentioned over and over, analysts, because he doesn't have the discipline or the self-control to craft and then deliver what would still be, let's be honest, a dishonest campaign message against Harris, but a more level-headed and effective one. He could. I've said it before. I don't really want to do this because it would be helping MAGA.
Yeah, as a political, content creator, right? You're often tempted to, take off your ideological hat and put on an analyst hat and say, like, well, if I was going to advise the other party, and sometimes I do this, and the only reason that I feel safe doing that is because I know the other party, the Republicans, they're not going to listen to me. You're not going to have that. Like, Stephen Chung is not going to come into my stream and be like, huh, she's got some really good ideas. Yeah, maybe, hey, Trump, we should do, right? That's not how it's going to work.
But I can come up with much better attack lines they could be using against Harris than the ones they are. Questioning her identity, that's only helping Harris, causing people to sympathize with her. Questioning the military record of her vice president, that's only helping their ticket, making you look unhinged. But there are other things you could be attacking her on. You're choosing not to because Trump doesn't have the self-control. He's too easily triggered right now. And as Chris Christie said, when he's desperate politically, he loses all ability to stay on a message and he goes back to the worst, most vile instincts that he has. And that's why we've been seeing the race baiting again. That's why we've been seeing these sorts of childish attacks, saying she has low IQ. Things that, again, only serve to help her campaign, pushing people towards her.
So just like Hillary Clinton talking about the baskets of deplorables, which in her mind, made sense, right? She's trying to say, like, look, we know there's some Republicans that we're never going to win their vote, right? And we don't want to win their vote. Like, winning their vote would mean becoming more like them, right? And she's like, this fucking basket of deplorables over here, right? And she thinks she's smart because she thinks what she's doing is she's separating out, like, the reasonable Republicans from the deplorable Republicans. And what she's really doing is just adding fuel to the fire of the grievance. And Trump is a candidate who very much farms grievance. She's adding fuel to that fire. And she's actually hurting herself with that baskets of deplorables comment, right? Calling, Kamala stupid, talking about cat ladies like JD Vance did, right? You're actually antagonizing people and making them more likely to show up and vote against you. And that's not actually helpful.
Not to mention what she's doing to pull people towards her. And regardless, he continues on. And we've been seeing publicly signs of how panicked he is. But again, this reporting and much more is indicating behind the scenes is even worse. And Axios is saying, as I told you, that his aides are around him thinking, what's going on? But this is the guy you've chosen to work for. So deal with it. Let me know what you thought of that in the comments. If you want to get extra content daily, you can do so by clicking the join button below.
Did Joe?
Okay, I think we already watched this actually. I've got an article for you really quick. I'm going to read this. We put a picture of the Trumpster up there. He's not looking so good. He's not looking so great. So this is that New York Times article that I was talking about. The August 2nd dinner at Bridgehampton, New York, home of Howard Lutnick and the Cantor Fitzgerald chief executive, was a high-powered affair. God, I hate how they write. Among the roughly 130 people who, this is why nobody reads the New York Times, by the way, who dined under the air-conditioned tent were some of Donald Trump's wealthiest supporters, including billionaire hedge fund financier Bill Ackerman, who sat next to the former president, and Omid Malik, president of another fund, 1789 Capital. Some guests hoped Mr. Trump would signal that he was recalibrating after a series of damaging mistakes. He did not. before the dinner, answering a question that voiced concerns about the upcoming election during a small roundtable discussion inside Mr. Lutnick's house, Mr. Trump said, "We've got to stop the steal." That's not what they want to hear. Do you understand what's wrong with that? Beyond the fact that it's untrue, beyond the fact that he did not, in fact, win the 2020 election, he is showing himself in front of his donors to be focused on the past, and he is expressing a viewpoint which will actually stop people from voting for him. If people start to think, on his side, right? If his side starts to think that their vote doesn't matter, that their vote doesn't count, that it's just going to get stolen, there's just going to be less people voting for him, right? So this is a bad sign. Again, this is self-harm that he's doing to his campaign, and he doesn't realize it. Reviving yet again the false claims that the 2020 election about the 2020 election, claims that his advisors have urged him to drop because they don't help him with swing voters. Exactly, right? That's who he needs to win. Not the MAGA faithful. They're going to vote for him no matter what. He's got to win swing voters. He's got to win people that are there. They look at Kamala Harris. They don't like what they see. They look at Donald Trump. They don't like what they see. He needs them to look at him and be like, I don't like what I see with Donald Trump, but I like it a little bit better than I like Harris, right? That's the meta. That's the game. According to two people present, Mr. Trump himself was also brought up his remark made 2 days earlier at a gathering of the National Association of Black Journalists, in which he questioned the Vice President Kamala Harris's racial identity. It had been a display of flagrant race baiting that was egregious even by Mr. Trump's standards, and instantly reprogrammed Americans' TV news chyrons. In other words, the news changed its lead story, right? He falsely claimed that Miss Harris had only recently identified as black for political purposes. But Mr. Trump showed no regret. "I think I was right," he told the rattled donors that Friday night. Later at dinner, under the tent, Harrison Lafrac, the scion of New York real estate family, whose father is an old friend of Mr. Trump's, asked how Mr. Trump planned to take the narrative back from Democrats and what his positive vision for the country would be. It appeared to be a request for reassurance. Mr. Trump provided none. Instead, he criticized Miss Harris on a range of fronts before adding, "I am who I am." So he's not going to change. The fundraiser. Wait a minute. That sounds like some kind of weird messianic dog whistle. That's a biblical phrase. And he's not a biblical guy. But there are people in his party, there are people in that diehard MAGA, contingent that want to see him as some kind of messianic figure, sometimes even literally. So there's a strange group of people that literally look at Trump and they're like, I don't know, maybe second coming? Could it be? I don't know. The fundraiser came amid a stretch of flailing and self-harm that began after President Biden's July 21 withdrawal from the race and the endorsement of Miss Harris to succeed him. Close Trump allies have described this as the rockiest period of Mr. Trump's campaign. And yeah, it's the worst that he's been doing he's been ahead for like almost a year. He's not ahead now. Easily the worst. We'll look at those numbers a little bit later. Easily the worst since late 2022 spree in which he mused about terminating parts of the Constitution and dined at Mar-a-Lago with white supremacist and an outspoken anti-Semite. They're talking about Slippery Nick right there, right? So since then, Mr. Trump has picked fights with allies publicly, like Joe Rogan, and privately, including a broadside against Governor Brian Kemp. I forgot about this, of Georgia at an Atlanta rally. A kind of mean-spirited public attack on a popular Republican that his own allies believed helped sink 2 Senate races in Georgia in January 2021. So it's bad enough that Trump is sinking his own campaign. The fact that he might, and Biden was doing this too, possibly sinking the Senate campaigns, is even worse for donors to deal with, right? 2 Senate races in Georgia on January 2021 could harm Mr. Trump in that state, a vital battleground in November. This story is based on interviews with more than a dozen people close to Mr. Trump, nearly all of whom insisted on anonymity to describe private discussions and events, right? So this is what we're talking about. The Trump campaign, his confidants, his inner circle leaking on him. That's not a good sign. As Ms. Harris, long ridiculed and underestimated, has transformed the contest, campaigning energetically and drawing roughly even with Mr. Trump in many polls, Mr. Trump has responded with one unforced error after another, while struggling to land on one effective and consistent argument against her. What's weird is that this sounds like the Hillary Clinton campaign from 2016, right? This was what Hillary Clinton did, especially in terms of not being able to settle on one line of attack. That's what ultimately probably, doomed her campaign. He has found the change disorienting. Those who interact with him say Mr. Trump has grown comfortable campaigning against the 81-year-old incumbent who struggled to navigate stares, thoughts, and sentences. Suddenly, he finds himself in a race against a black woman nearly 20 years his younger, one who has already made history and who is drawing large and excited crowds. People around Mr. Trump see a candidate knocked off his bearings, nothing like the man who reclined serenely on July 15th, as he watched as thousands of delegates cheered him on in the first night of the Republican National Convention. July 15th. It is now August. Jeez, I said 2 months, chat. This is literally 1 month. It's just been it feels like it's been a year, but it's only been 1 month, right? The shooting was like a month ago. The convention was like a month ago, right? Then Mr. Trump, his ear bandage was a living martyr after an attempt on his life 2 days before. Inside the Milwaukee arena, the Democrats had already been defeated. The only thing left to wonder was the margin of Mr. Trump's victory. In a statement in response to reporting for the story, a spokesman, Brian Hughes, said that Mr. Trump continues to run a winning campaign and has built a movement focused on making our nation great again. Another spokesman, Stephen Chung, insisted Mr. Trump had to put forward a positive vision for the country by contrasting with the dangerously liberal policies of Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris, and I guess J.D. Vance. But to Mr. Trump's close allies, the first night in Milwaukee now seems like a foggy memory, like it never happened. At the August 2nd dinner, Mr. Trump told donors that the news media had been incorrectly suggesting that he had mellowed since the assassination attempt. I'm not nicer, he said. Yeah, no shit. According to one person in attendance. Another said Mr. Trump described himself as angry because they, air quotes, unspecified adversaries that the attendee took to mean Democrats had first tried to bankrupt him and then to unalive him. Now that might be the deep state. Knowing Trump, he might be they might be a lot of things, right? Very conspiratorial-minded person, Mr. Trump. Indeed, Mr. Trump has often been in a foul mood in the past few weeks. He has ranted about Miss Harris, calling her nasty on Fox and Fringe, and a B word, a BITCH, repeatedly in private, according to two people who heard the remark on different occasions. So they've got not one source, but two sources on that. Doesn't mean it's 100% true for sure, but it's more likely. That is not the language President Trump has used to describe Kamala, and that's not how the campaign would characterize her, Mr. Chung said. His quickness to anger has left him susceptible to manipulation. Oh, so we read this part, right? Yeah, he can get played, right? Kamala, if she's smart, the campaign, if they're smart, they can start to anticipate like what they can say that will cause Trump to have certain reactions, things like the crowd size, things that set him off, right? And set him into this loop where he's actually doing harm to his own campaign. And that makes it so much easier for them. Okay, anyway, this is a long-ass article. I'm not going to bore you with any more of it. We got some polls to check in with. Yeah, a lot of polls coming in, looking really good for Kamala. I want to show you this though. Now, I made a stream title that got me the best numbers I've ever had. That doesn't mean that I made people happy. All right, it's very rare. It's a very rare day when I make everybody happy on Shorts live stream, right? There's a lot of different opinions out there. There's a lot of different perspectives. And, you know, if I'm going to make some people happy, I'm going to make other people mad. Some people don't want to know the news. Some people don't want to know the truth. Some people want to hear their viewpoint, just, you know, at the exclusion of anything else. They don't want to hear what's really going on the ground. Right. And I think the title was something about should Trump drop out. Now, this was the day that he delivered that awful speech. That terrible speech, what am I saying? Is a press conference, right? And it just went horribly. This is the one where he tried to flex on Martin Luther King by comparing the January 6th crowd size to the I Have a Dream speech and saying, I had more people. I had more people. Why won't they say that I had more people than Martin Luther King, right? So, yeah, I mean, he's hurting his own campaign in a way that's almost unimaginable. I mean, this is something that no political advisor would ever tell you to do, and yet he's popping off. He's reacting. He's not in control of the words that are coming out of his mouth, and it shows. And so I posited, you know, since Biden had dropped out, whether Trump might drop out. This made a lot of people very angry. It's made a lot of people very upset. And I was kind of alone. I mean, at least as far as I knew, I wasn't reading you the headline from some other news source. I was just talking about the fact that Kamala's campaign, or the Democratic campaign, completely turned around when they made the choice to get Biden out of there and replace him with Kamala, right? When Biden was showing that he could not win the campaign, replacing Biden, that was the only thing that was going to get the energy back, right? And so I'm kind of like, well, I mean, if I was advising the Republicans, if I was a Republican and I wanted a Republican to win, I wanted Kamala to lose, what's the best way to go about that? Maybe replacing the candidate at the top of the ticket. That made people really mad. And I got accused of all kinds of things. I basically called the Tokyo Rose of YouTube here, right? That I'm just like, you know, sending Democratic propaganda to dispirit the MAGA troops out there, all the digital soldiers out there. Where we go one, we go all, whatever. But no, I mean, I'm just trying to, you know, tell you what I'm thinking. And at the time, I thought that I was the only one who was thinking that. Turns out, not so much. Let's take a look. This is Scaramucci. What's his name? What's his first name? Is it Joe Scaramucci? I remember this guy. He was a Trump official. This guy was on Trump's side back in the day. But yeah, he got kicked out of his job and turned against him. I don't know if he's a disgruntled employee or what's the deal exactly, but here he is, and he's got kind of the same idea as what I was thinking. This is somebody that's been on the inside of Trump world. So let's at least give him a chance, see what he has to say. Should I change the... Former Trump official predicts Trump may drop out. All right, we're going to change the stream title, see if this does the numbers for us. We like to do the numbers here, chat. We like to play the numbers. I just want to spread this to the most people possible, right? And, you know, whether you agree or you disagree, if you're willing to have a reasonable conversation with us, we welcome that. We welcome that. But the one rule that I have is don't make the chat nasty. Don't make it toxic. Don't make it bad for people, because I want people to be able to chat. So if you come in hot and you're like Trump, 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 that's not really, I can't deal with that. I don't know what to say to that, right? That's not, you're not trying to have a conversation. You're trying to spam Trump. Okay. So take that into consideration before you make your chat, because my mods are doing a lot of work. Thank you so much, mods. I appreciate you. And I just be reasonable. All right. You can disagree. Just do so reasonably. That's all I ask. Let's see what Scaramucci.
I'm joined by Anthony Scaramucci.
Anthony Scaramucci.
Anthony, this meltdown by Donald Trump. I mean, he's posting that Vice President Kamala Harris's crowds are AI. Right. He's out there giving these speeches where he...
Oh, God, I don't think we've covered this yet. This is really interesting, right? Let's read this, okay? Has anyone noticed? This is Truth Social, I think. Is it? Actually, he's back on Twitter. No, I think this is Truth. Donald J. Trump says, has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? She cheated at the airport? What does that mean? Did she skip in line? What does that mean? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it. So he's saying that there was no, that this picture that you're seeing here is AI. To show, somebody must have told him this. He's oh my God, he needs to stop listening to these people, right? AI'd it and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers, but they didn't exist. She was turned in by a maintenance worker at the airport when he noticed the fake crowd picture, but there was nobody there. Later confirmed by the reflection in the mirror, like the finish on the mirror-like finish on the vice presidential plane. She's a cheater. She had nobody waiting, and the crowd looked like 10,000 people. Same thing is happening. It doesn't show us the rest.
Continues to talk about Hannibal Lecter. He's saying that Vice President.
This is my favorite Trump. This is my favorite Trump, chat. The Trump that talks about Hannibal Lecter, the late great Hannibal Lecter. Do you know this guy, folks? The late great Hannibal Lecter. He liked to have a friend for dinner. I love that Trump. That's my... People say, why do you hate Trump? I don't hate Trump. Trump is immensely entertaining, especially when he talks about the late great Hannibal Lecter.
And Kamala Harris turned black, and he's like really leaning in to that message. This is a meltdown. Did you predict it would be this bad?
Well, I mean, if Joe Biden didn't leave the race, then I would have said, he had the leg up. But now that Kamala Harris is in the race, no, I didn't believe it would be this bad. I thought he would get rocked by her. But I do think something else is happening. I just want to address this quickly. The maggots, who are the MAGA people like the Laura Loomers and the real full-on lunatics, are the look at the burst.
I really don't know Scaramucci's deal. Like I said, maybe he's a disgruntled former employee. I'm not super trusting of this guy. He does feel like a little bit of a political chameleon to go from being inside the Trump administration to talking about Trump's fans as maggots.
Certificate. It says Caucasian on the birthday of some crazy stuff like that. So therefore she quote unquote turned black. And by the way, I'm embarrassed.
Bryant Morales says Trump is losing his shit in more than one way. You're telling me.
That I'm actually bringing up that on your show.
Loch Nessa Monster says the Fat Elvis stage Trump is the best. Wait, the Fat Elvis stage Trump? Have I seen that? He's a grifter, says FG.
No, but a presidential candidate said that about the vice president. So that's the MAGA racist movement. And so Trump is now tapping into that because he's going to blow every racist dog whistle possible. The AI stuff is also from that movement. Some kid, flipped up his laptop and it showed her coming off a plane without a crowd, and then showed how they could make a crowd for her. And so Trump wanted his followers to know that his crowds are bigger than hers. One of the reasons why he's not out there right now is that he's worried about the crowd sizes. Her crowds are bigger than his. He's worried about that. The other thing he's worried about is his messaging sucks right now. And so he can't find the right word salad to address her. So his stuff is mean and nasty when he's talking about women not working. He wants to literally racially slur her, but he can't actually do that. So he calls her dumb. So that to me is a huge sign of racism because she's a very accomplished person. And so when he calls her stupid and incompetent, he's really blowing the racist dog whistle. So yeah, no, the guy's out of his mind, and I predict it's going to get worse.
Do you predict that he's going to drop out? It's
40%.
going to get so worse? Or what do you think about that? Because before we started this interview...
Okay, so here's the Fat Elvis
said to me, hey,
stage.
What do you think the chances of him dropping out? I said, I don't think. I think he's going to burn it down with him, the entire GOP. What's your theory on that?
All right, so I'm wearing this T-shirt in your honor, okay? This is, just so everybody knows, now, Ben was born in 1985, so he tried to rub that in. But if you were born in the 1960s like me, this is Chico's bail bonds. Okay, this was Walter Matthau and the legendary movie Bad News Bears. The Chico's bail bonds.
The late, great Walter Matthau.
Sponsor of
folks.
the Bad News Bears. And I'm wearing the bail bond thing because I think Trump is in trouble. He's getting sentenced.
Okay, so I'm trying to translate Boomer for you here. The Bad News Bears is like a movie about a little league baseball team that sucked. And I guess their sponsor was like a bail bond company, which is, you know, like they need a company to sponsor them to pay for what their uniforms. Is that how it goes? And they were only able to get a bail bond company, so it's weird to see little kids with like a bail bond shirt because, you know, they're little kids and you hope that they're not going to need a bail bondsman at any point in their life. I don't know.
In September, he'll probably be under house arrest. Or, you know, he
okay,
knows he
maybe. Wait. What's it? When? We're just jumping into this. Might he drop out?
Okay. This is just so.
Look, I didn't tell you that Trump was gonna drop out. I didn't tell you that I thought Trump would drop out. All right. My contention was that he should drop out for the good of his party. That, you know, if people really in the Republican Party really care about winning, they would try to get another candidate, right? Because nobody wants Biden and nobody wants Trump. And if you take Biden off the ticket and replace him with almost anybody, people are going to choose that person over Trump. And then if you take Trump off the ticket and replace him with almost anybody, now you've got a race again. You got a real, you know, you got a real horse race.
Everybody knows now, Ben was born in 1985, so he tried to rub that in. But if you were born in the 1960s like me, this is Chico's bail bonds. Okay, this was Walter Matthau and the legendary movie Bad News Bears. The Chico's bail bonds was the sponsor of the Bad News Bears. And I'm wearing the bail bond thing because I think Trump is...
Okay, because he thinks Trump is going to jail. Look, Trump, part of the reason that Trump is definitely, you know, was definitely wanting to run for another term is because he knows that he's got all these charges chasing him, and they'll be a lot easier to dodge from the White House, right? You can smack down a lot of investigations. There's really not a lot that can be done to you as president in terms of prosecution unless you get the House of Representatives voting for impeachment that gets sent to the Senate, and the Senate holds a trial, and I think it's like 60. They got to have like a supermajority, right? So it's very unlikely if your party supports you, if there's not like a big contention of your party defecting, and there wouldn't be. It's very unlikely for you to actually be impeached, for you to actually be removed from office, which would be the only way to prosecute somebody while they're president is remove them from office.
He's in trouble. He's getting sentenced in September. He'll probably be under house arrest, or, you know, who the hell knows? He may have to spend some time in jail, not during the campaign, of course, but after the campaign, which will only torque things up. And so I do think there's a 40% chance he drops out. People say, oh, you're crazy.
I mean, he's definitely right that there's very little chance of Trump serving any time or, you know, being sentenced prior to the November election.
Blah, blah, blah. You know, remember we said that Biden was going to come out of the race and Vice President Harris was going to replace her. I was crazy to say that. But the reason why I'm not crazy to say this is Trump likes three things. Don't ever forget this. He likes money. He likes attention, and he likes his personal freedom, meaning he doesn't want to go to jail. He's a big baby, which is why he has all that hyper masculinity and all that bullying, tough guy intimidation, enemies lists, all the stupid stuff that small penis people have.
He's too much, chat. Scaramucci is too much. He's a clown. I can't take you seriously, sir. I can't take you seriously, Mr. Scaramucci. I cannot take you seriously. Anyway, I don't think I ever read this out. This is Trump's another truth that he made. He's kind of wish casting here, right? What are the chances that crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history, I can't do his voice, in the history of the U.S., whose presidency was unconstitutionally stolen from him by KAMALA? Barack Hussein Obama, crazy Nancy Pelosi. I call her crazy Nancy, folks. Shifty Anna Schiff, crying Chuck Schumer, and the other lunatic lefties crashes the Democratic National Convention and tries to take back the nomination. This is what he's hoping for. This is his fucking dream. This is his wish, right? Beginning with it challenging me to another debate. He feels that he has made a historically tragic mistake by handing over the U.S. presidency, a coup. If it's a coup, then he would have no choice. You understand how a coup works? Also, he's not being taken out of the presidency. He's being pressured by his party to drop the nomination. And at the end of the day, it's his choice, and he made it. He's the one that he did not have to come forward. Nobody's holding a fucking, anything to his head, making him do that. To the people and the world most hates, and he wants it back. Now, this is what you are hoping. You would like for Joe Biden to come in there being like, listen here, Jack, I'm the nominee that the party chose. It's me. It's not going to happen.
And so he doesn't want to go to jail. Trust me.
KAMALA.
So if he
Obama
sees himself really dropping in the polls, and there's a way to cut himself a deal that avoids jail, he'll fake an illness and he'll see if he can slide a Nikki Haley.
Oh, so I don't know if this is true, right? Plea bargain is what we're talking about. Sometimes happens. There's a reason that this happens, right? It's very expensive to prosecute a criminal case, right? And generally, prosecutors will try to pressure defendants into making a plea deal. They'll say, okay, listen, we can charge you with this, that, and the other, but if you will plead guilty, we will only charge you with this, this, and this. It has a maximum penalty of this many years. You'll probably get out early with good behavior. This could be good for you. What do you say? What do you say? And a lot of times people will take this, and it's not a good thing, right? In general, like plea bargaining, a lot of time ends up. If you've seen Stone Ocean, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of innocent people like Jolene Cujo end up pleading guilty because they're told that the possibility of a very severe prison sentence exists should they not plead guilty, right? But shouts out to Jolene. But anyway, this is what Scaramucci's talking about. I don't know how realistic this is. Like the idea of a prosecutor saying, if you drop out of the election, you can plead to this stuff instead of us charging, right? I'm not sure how realistic that is.
Or Ron DeSantis.
And again, like I said, this guy's kind of a joke. I don't take him seriously.
Into the top of the ticket. Hopefully you'll ask me about Vance, because that's been
Ron DeSanctimonious. He thinks DeSanctus is going to get in there.
Literally the biggest disaster in vice.
Yeah, you can't have Vance.
Presidential selection history. I mean, you can't be any worse than this guy.
New photos of J.D. Vance cross-dressing at Yale Law School emerged. There's that photo. I think there are a few others.
And again, chat, this shouldn't be a big deal. If a man wants to go to a college party dressed like this, okay? If a man wants to wear eyeliner at his campaign events, fine. You do you. You do you. All right? But if you want to regulate the way that people are able to live, the way that people are able to express themselves, If you want to make life harder for LGBT people across the country, then yeah, this is kind of like, what are you doing here?
There's also a photo of him with a hammer and sickle wearing a Soviet Union shirt.
Yeah, he's definitely a tanky.
Who is this guy? You know, the thing is that
I feel like we all know this guy. You know what I'm saying?
a few others. There's also a photo of him with a hammer and
This guy, right? Goofy guy in college with a hammer and sickle shirt. Not actually a Marxist or a communist or anything like that. But he's there to party.
and sickle wearing a Soviet Union shirt. Who is this guy? You know, the thing is that if he wanted to be who he really is, we would have fought for his freedoms to be the J.D. Vance that he was.
To let your tanky flag fly free, yes.
Created 3 names for himself, 4 identities, and now tries to take away our freedom. The worst VP.
Wait, wait. 3 names for him, 4 identities? Went from thinking he was gay. Oh, wait, I didn't know about this. Wait, is this real? How J.D. Vance went from thinking he was gay and changing his name. I have not heard of this. How J.D. Vance went from thinking he was gay. Okay, we got to read this, chat. This is news to me. Ohio Republican U.S. Senator J.D. Vance's journey from a troubled childhood in Appalachia to the halls of the U.S. Senate to being former President Donald Trump's running mate has been the subject of much ink. Yet his contradictory stance on LGBTQ rights is coming under scrutiny. Vance's memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, contains a revealing anecdote about, this is in Hillbilly Elegy, right? This is his book, right? About his childhood belief that he was gay. Influenced by a preacher's condemnation of homosexuality, young Vance feared that he was destined for hell simply because he disliked girls and cherished his friendship with another boy. Vance's grandmother, whom he refers to as Mama, sorry, I think that's how it's said. There's Meemaws, there's Maymaws, and there's Peepaws. If you come from that part of the country, you know what I'm saying. You know, one in chat if you got a Maymaw. 2 in chat if you got a Meemaw. During his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention last Wednesday, was a central figure in his upbringing. She swiftly dispelled his fears or spanked him, I don't know, with a blunt question and an assurance of the divine love regardless of his sexual orientation. Oh, wait, that's actually sweet. Blunt, what's the blunt question? This experience, which might have instilled a sense of empathy and understanding, starkly contrasts with Vance's political actions. As a senator, Vance has positioned himself as a staunch opponent of LGBTQ rights, focusing particularly on restricting transgender rights. Again, chat, again. Accusations and confessions tend to go hand in hand with these people. Vance's opposition to affirming one's identity is complicated by his decision to change his name. Not once, but twice. He was born James Donald Bowman and took the surname Hamill from his stepfather before choosing the name Vance to honor his grandmother. That's Mayma, I guess. New York Times reports, critics argue that Vance's childhood experiences should have fostered empathy and understanding towards... Look, I mean, I don't know. You can't... This isn't really true, right? Should, in the mind of somebody looking at it from the outside, but it's not always how it works, right? There are gay people that are homophobic. There are trans people that are transphobic. There are, for any marginalized identity out there, there are people of that identity that are self-hating. And that's the unfortunate fact. That's the reality. That's what I mean. There's Blair White, right? There's Dave Rubin. There's Milo Yiannopoulos. There's so many examples, right? towards the LGBT community. Instead, he has used his platform to undermine their rights, leading to accusations of hypocrisy. Vance's legislative actions have also drawn significant criticism. He introduced a bill criminalizing gender-affirming care for minors, arguing that such medical interventions are harmful and should be banned. He has also decried the inclusion of third gender options on passports, branding it as a waste of taxpayer. Really, does that cost more money? I don't understand how that would cost more money, right? I'm trying to imagine. It costs a certain amount of money to print an M on a passport, right? You'd imagine that it costs the same amount of money to print an F on a passport. Why would it cost more money? We're not talking about like different colors. It's not like a tattoo. When you go from like black and white to a color tattoo, it costs more money. You got to use more, right? It's not like printing where, you're going to print it in color. It's going to cost more money, right? You're talking about a letter, a letter that is already printed possibly elsewhere on the passport would then be printed in the gender. How is this a waste of taxpayer money? It says COPE is what it is. There are only two genders, and passports issued by the United States government should recognize that simple fact. Vance wrote on his congressional website while pushing his bill, the Passport Sanity Act. Ironic. Anyway, Vance has made other significant changes to his identity throughout his life, including his religious beliefs. Oh, I heard about this. Raised by Blue Dog Democrats, he embraced conservative values, though he was a never Trump Republican until he joined the U.S. Senate in 2022. He recently became a vocal supporter of Trump. The Times notes that his journey from a skeptical observer to key player in Trump's political circle highlights his adaptability and willingness to shift his identity for political gain. Yeah. Vance's narrative, as detailed in Hillbilly Elegy, is one of struggle and transformation. He has spoken openly about his troubled childhood, experiences from father figures, and his journey through the military and Yale Law School. These experiences have shaped his political views, revealing a man who has constantly reinvented himself. This makes his rigid stance on transgender rights all the more perplexing. So yeah, that's from The Advocate.
Pick in history, Anthony Scaramucci?
Listen, I don't want to pick on the guy's sexual orientation. Listen, I don't know, but sometimes people that have sexual orientations are trying to hide them, and so they create an overbite of the opposite thing, And I'm not a psychiatrist.
Is Hillbilly Elegy good? I haven't read it, Jacob Henton, but I've heard there's kind of a hot scene on page 179 to 181. Right, supposedly involving J.D. Vance and a couch. That's all I know about Hillbilly Elegy is what's in page 179 to 181. Weirdly specific that I have that knowledge, but I do.
Or anything like that. But this guy's a nut job. You don't have to be a genius to see that this guy's a nut job. And so a little more exposure, a little more press exposure. He's a smart guy. He's a well-read guy. But you'll be able to blow holes in this guy's personality. He's dull. JD, I think, is like just dull Vance. But this was a true disaster for Donald.
I'm sorry. That's weak. That's not a good. No, come on. You got to do. If you're going to insult somebody, look. Here's where I'll give Trump some credit. Right. The art of the deal, maybe not. But the art of the insult, yes. Donald Trump does know the art of the insult. Donald Trump does know the art of the nickname. Donald Trump is actually pretty good at that. Scaramucci, not so much. That's pretty weak. That's just dull Vance. Okay.
Because remember, Trump was trying to pick somebody that was going to cause him no harm so he could race off and win the presidency and take all the credit. If he picked Nikki Haley, the race would be super, super close.
Yeah, Will Florida says, understanding sexuality can be confusing for some folks, especially young folks, steeped in homophobia. True.
Maybe who knows? Maybe he'd even win the race, but he didn't pick Nikki Haley because Nikki Haley, he's such a narcissist. He didn't want to give her any credit for potentially winning. You see what I'm saying? So
he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to share the stage.
I don't know. You don't know. But I think JD Vance
Yeah, they cut that scene from the movie. Yeah, the scene on page 179 to 181.
is a nut job. If he's going to get rid of him, which
Alex J. Brady says Trump hasn't had many bangers lately. True.
I got that also at 40%. 40% he drops out, 40% he gets rid of JD, and he will get rid of JD Vance after the Democratic National Convention. Why? Well, he wants.
Okay, yeah. Now listen, this would be the move. This would be the move. This is what Biden did. And this was a good move, right? Because here's the deal. There's a bump from conventions. I don't know how big it is. Maybe it was bigger in the past. Maybe it's like, we're in a new media environment and it's not as considerable as it used to be, right? But there's a bump, there's a wave, there's momentum that comes from the convention. So assuming that nobody fucks up on a speech and says we finally defeated Medicare, then you might not get a bump. Then you might get the opposite of a bump. But generally, you get a bump, right? So Kamala's riding high after the bump, right? And the Republicans announce Donald Trump has made the brave decision to end his campaign. And the Republican Party has chosen Nikki Haley, has chosen Glenn Youngkin, has chosen Lindsey Graham. I'm kidding. Not Lindsey Graham. That I don't think they would choose Lindsey. That'd be hilarious though. No, has chosen Chris. No, not Chris Christie. I'm still trolling you. Chat. Has chosen Ron DeSanctimonious to be the new. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess DeSantis came in second, right? As far as the it might be DeSantis.
To Bigfoot them from an attention point of view. And so he'll wait until their convention's over. Then he'll announce that he swapped out JD Vance. It's The Apprentice. It's a reality show.
No, it's not just The Apprentice. It's what Biden did, and it's probably a good idea. But Biden also had gotten COVID, right? Like the weekend. What was it? The weekend after the convention, Biden got COVID, and it was just kind of like the last straw. And people came to him while he was sick, right? And they were like, Joe, you got to go. This isn't good. You can't campaign like this. And he relented. Yeah, apparently he and Nancy Pelosi hate each other now.
Not a big deal. The news cycle changes quickly. JD Vance will be history. He'll slot somebody else in. The question is who. But again,
Alex J. Brady says, Lindsey Graham thought he was straight once in college. True. Scaramucci is wrong. Even though his logic is sound, Trump's too much of a narcissist to quit. I think you're right. Circuitry. I agree with circuitry there. I don't think it'll happen. I don't see it happening.
He may not do that.
I mean, Biden's a narcissist too, so anything's possible. But look, it also, he's not just a narcissist, right? Trump needs to be elected in order to stay not necessarily out of jail, but to prevent any of these charges from actually biting him, right? He's got so many criminal charges now. Something is likely to actually get him. And I don't think it would be jail time or anything like that. I think he'd probably wear an ankle bracelet or something. But he doesn't want that. That would be, that would be the bad ending for Donald Trump. So yeah, he doesn't want that. So he's gonna stay in the race, I think.
Because he's, it looks to his poor decision making, but I think it's at least 40%.
Look, JD Vance did.
Metal says Trump shouldn't be allowed to drop out after the convention. That's what Republicans have been saying about Biden.
A press tour over the weekend where one of his main messages were Democrats are engaging in name calling and schoolyard bullying during the campaign, and he's calling on them to stop the bullying.
This is too much. You can't say this shit. All right, here's the thing. Vance has said a couple things that I think might hold some water in a different situation if he was paired with anybody but Donald Trump. That's one of them, right? Name calling, immature. This is not what the political race should be talking about. Right? Okay. But who's your running mate again? Oh, yeah, the guy that makes up nicknames for people. Crooked Hillary, Little Rhonda, Marco. Wait, what was this name? Little Marco. He makes you can't say no bullying when you're, when your running mate is Donald Trump. You cannot do that. another thing he did was he tried to say that not JD Vance. He tried to say that Tim Walz, maybe there's some stolen valor there. Are you really an E9? I mean, I know you got the promotion to E9, but you didn't finish all your paperwork, so technically you're kind of an E8. People in the National Guard, I guess you know what that means. I'm not sure, but like it's talking about like seniority. And so he's trying to accuse him of stolen valor. Well, I'm sorry, but your running mate is a draft dodger. Your running mate faked bone spurs to get out of the draft because he didn't want to go to Vietnam and risk being killed. And potentially somebody else got drafted in his place and died in his place. So, yeah, Donald Trump, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, all kinds of connections, is able to get out of anything, including the Vietnam War draft. And so, no, you can't make that. You can't call stolen valor when your running mate is Donnie Bone Spurs.
He says bullying should be nowhere in a campaign. For real, that's what they're going with.
All right, look, I'm really trying to. I'm trying not to laugh, but I mean, yeah, look, come on, it's crazy. So everybody's a little Marco. We have Lion Ted Cruz. We've got
Lion Ted was one of my favorite ones.
Sleepy Joe Biden, but
Sleepy Joe. Oh my God, I almost forgot about Sleepy Joe.
I got called weird. I got my feelings hurt. I'm running for the vice presidency. It's sort of crazy. They upended. Trump did a good job of upending political norms. And so there's no going back as long as there is a Donald Trump. So I do predict that we'll defeat Donald Trump in the fall. It will end Trump.
So he's a Democrat now. This is not just a never Trumper.
Trumpism. There will be a weird reformation
honestly, chat, he seems like just a clout chaser. It just seems like this is a career for him now. Like in the same way that if you're I don't know. If you're Anna Kasparian, you can make a lot of money off of saying, well, I used to be a Democrat. I used to be a progressive. But then I read this book and I thought about it and I realized that the left is really horrible and I changed my mind, right? And the same way that you can do that, Scaramucci seems to be the bookend to Anna Kasparian.
Don't let me be like The Fly. I never saw that movie. I know you're so young and you'd like to rub it in on me, but there was a movie with Jeff.
There was this movie called The Fly and he vomited on things and ate them. It was really disgusting.
Goldblum called The Fly in 1985, the year of your birth, where he merged with The Fly. And so there's a right-wing anarcho-Christian movement that after Trump loses, it'll merge with some form of...
Chat, this makes me want to find the Nick Mullen clip about Jeff Goldblum. Does anybody... One in chat. One in chat if you know who I'm talking about. One in chat if you got any idea what the fuck I'm talking about here. Any fans of the podcast in chat right here?
MAGA-ism, it'll create an even more perverse, weird thing.
Nick Mullen has got the best, like, fucking impersonation of Jeff Goldblum I have ever heard. It's hilarious.
And hopefully we'll beat that. Hopefully there'll be a center-right...
Wait, Nick Mullen's a scab?
...coalition that...
Or Scaramucci.
It's rebirth.
You should have read your comments? Wait, what's the comment that I missed? Did I miss a comment? Or is that directed at somebody else, BCatK? I'm sorry. I'm a little out of it, as you can tell. Sunday said I'm on Valium, but in reality, this is sleep deprivation.
That knocks those people to the wayside because they've meleeed Lincoln's great party. I mean, it's unrecognizable what they did to the Republican Party. But one good thing about what they've done is that, since Lara Trump took over the Republican Party, they closed all the field offices. So this is a get out the vote election. And so the Democrats are going to be heavily personneled in the swing states where the Republicans are going to be underrepresented. I think that's also a good sign for Vice President Harris.
Tell us about the business community right now. You speak to business leaders a lot. Are you seeing, a change from where they were a few months ago? Tell us about that.
Yes. So I'm going to predict that on your show that there will be retractions of endorsements. I predict that there are several Silicon Valley people. I don't think Vice President Harris is going to say anything pro-crypto until after the convention. But
no. The crypto bros, they're finding their way in. They're going to buy one they're gonna buy the winning political party one way or the other. Chat. Also, I see some super chats are coming in. I will read those out after this segment. I'll read out your super chats. Remember, when you super chat, let me know which of these topics that you want to see next. Right? I'm doing a poll in the full stream chat, shorts chat. If you want to vote in that poll, you're gonna have to switch over. You're gonna have to hit that link in the pinned comment. Right? Hit that link and go over to the other stream, and you'll be able to vote there. You can vote there, and also when you donate, let me know which of these topics that you want to see, and that's any kind of donation. That goes for any donation. It goes for getting yourself a membership, gifting memberships to other people, signing up for the Patreon, supporting me on Throne, which is like right down there, or it's right up there, depending on what stream you're watching me on. That's where I'm crowdsourcing better stuff for my setup. Right now, I'm trying to get a bigger stick. Bigger RAM stick, right? 16 gigabytes is what I need apparently to make my setup work a little bit better. So yeah, if you want to help me out with that or anything else there on the Throne link, you will be able to put your money where your mouth is. That means that I will, when you say which of these topics you want to see, I'll put your donation as a percentage, and I'll add that to the total final of the poll. So it'll make it more likely that the content that you want to see will actually be shown at the end of the political segment. Then we're going to do a drama segment. Then we're going to do bonus content, right? If we hit the sub goal, which I feel like we're doing good on it, right? I don't know where we're at, but we're far along on the sub goal. But yeah, if we hit that sub goal, we'll get that. It goes for you on Twitch too, right? At the top of every hour, there's a 3-minute ad break on Twitch. If you're watching on Twitch, this does not go for YouTube. There's no way to get out of it, right? There's no way to skip it like there is on YouTube where you can skip ads. You can press that button. On Twitch, you have to sit there and watch it unless you get yourself a sub. You can do so for free with a Twitch Prime. You can do so for $6 with $6, or maybe you could be gifted a sub. It can happen. It does happen. It's more likely to happen to you if you're active in the chat.
Predict that she will signal to the crypto community that she's going to be more moderate and more balanced than Gary Gensler.
We got that ad break coming at you in, I don't know, 4 minutes.
Elizabeth Warren. And if that happens, there will be several venture capitalists in Silicon Valley that will flip and say, okay, we got the Trump thing wrong. And also remember, there's a tremendous amount
those venture capitalists
of brilliant women in business that are disgusted by the endorsements that some of these executives have made of Donald Trump. So watch how a lot of these people will pull back. I would just ask you to do something if you don't mind. There's a guy by the name of Yarvin. He's a political philosopher.
I know this guy, Curtis Yarvin. Chat, we need to get to the premium streamium. There's been so much fucking news and it keeps on getting pushed off. And there's always a reason that I don't get to do it. But I want to talk to you about not just Curtis Yarvin, but JD Vance and his paymaster Peter Thiel. If you're confused by the JD Vance selection, since JD Vance does not really help Trump out in any discernible way, there's two things that you got to factor in. One, when Trump picked Vance, he thought he was going to win. He thought he had it locked up. He made a Hillary move, right? When you think that you're going to win and it doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want, right? That's a Hillary move. That's what Hillary did. That's why Hillary lost, right? Trump's doing the same thing in picking Vance. But there's a reason that he picked Vance. Trump is hurting financially. He's, owing a bunch of money to lawyers. He's got a bunch of court fees. He's got a lot of cases against him. And he needs money, right? And bringing in JD Vance means that he's got Peter Thiel on his side. Peter Thiel is just kind of like a, kingmaker in the world of Silicon Valley. And he's, JD Vance is his guy. It's his bagman, right? So you bring in JD Vance and you're signaling that, if something just should happen to you in office, you're willing to let Silicon Valley take over through JD Vance. And you're signaling that you are in the pocket of Silicon Valley and you would very much like some of that Silicon Valley money. So that's what Trump is hoping for. That's why Trump picked Vance. And that is, so when we're talking about Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, right, these people are collectively referred to as the PayPal Mafia. They're called that because they were all at PayPal in the beginning. PayPal got bought by eBay and they all made a ton of money. not only did they make a ton of money, but they made a name for themselves. And with that name, they've just kind of run rampant on the tech industry. They're all over Silicon Valley. And so, this is, we talk about the White Leaf Network with Vosh. We talk about the, sort of DGG forum, the alliances of streamers around Destiny. This happens in the streaming world. This also happens in business, and it especially happens in Silicon Valley. And there's a lot to uncover when it comes to the world of Peter Thiel. He is one weird guy. JD Vance too. And, Curtis Yarvin is this fucking gargoyle blogger that they read that writes about how he wants to turn the poor into biodiesel. Or, oh no, maybe that's too cruel. Maybe that's cruel and unusual. No, we'll matrix the poor. We'll matrix the poor and keep them in a warehouse or something. Like he's got all these weird theories, right? He wants to see the government run more like a monarchy. It's just all this weird shit.
And his acolytes are people like Peter Thiel and JD Vance. He's calling for a monarchical system, an aristocratic system in America.
Wow, who knew? Scaramucci, NCC viewer. This isn't my viewer. This is my dude. Scaramucci, are you in chat right now? Speak up. Speak up, Scaramucci.
He wants to end the democracy. Thiel has said that the democracy is messy and perhaps obsolete. JD Vance believes this, of course. And so I'm just hoping that the media will key off of that, start asking him questions related to his closeness to Yarvin, the political philosopher who wants to end the democracy and also wants to move America. These are not my words, but it's their words. We are looking forward to a post-constitutional America. So I'm not looking forward to that. I love America. I love the checks and balances of our system. I love the pluralism.
So basically, there's a practice that's very common in Silicon Valley, right? There's an idea that's very common. And this is the idea of something like a unitary executive theory applied to business. CEOs are powerful people. They hold a lot of the levers of power in a company, but they're not all powerful. They've got the board. They got to keep the board happy. And so for that reason, they're not able to just do whatever they want normally. Now in Silicon Valley, sometimes the CEO will have sway, or I think maybe even own enough shares to mean that the board does not serve as a check on them. And that CEO is operating much like a monarch. And, they like this idea, total power, and they want to apply it to the government. They would like to see that applied to the United States government. They would like to see a president be able to operate like that. And so when you look at something like Project 2025, there's your explanation for why they want to be able to fire civil servants and replace them with their own people. They don't want any checks and balances. And the one good thing about the US government is it's full of checks and balances. Sometimes, those balances verge on being anti-majoritarian. You could make that argument about the US Senate. You could make that argument a little bit about the Electoral College. But in general, it's good to have not to concentrate the power in one branch of government.
Of our democracy, I want average people.
Peter Thiel's actually a homosexual? Oh my gosh. Wait, is he one of those people that has like a blood boy? Does Peter Thiel have a blood boy? Is that what we're saying?
And I want people who I grew up with, Ben, that had no money to live in an aspirational America that can achieve their dreams. What JD Vance wants and what those guys want that are supporting Donald Trump is they want an oligarchic control over America. Okay, so they want to liquidate the two other branches of the government, and they want a oligarchic sort of system where they do very well. The laws benefit them and benefit their big businesses, and they have little regard for smaller individuals in the state. And so I want to.
D Fatass says there are zero checks and balances in the government now. D Fatass, what branch of the government do you think is too powerful? Alex says, God, I wish I had a blood boy. What branch do you think is overpowered? I feel like you could make an argument. I'm not sure what you're saying, fat ass, but I think you could make an argument that maybe the judiciary has overstepped its bounds at this point. It's Midas touch. Yes, this is Midas touch. This is Scaramucci. And like I said, I don't put a lot of credence in what this guy says. You know, he's saying Trump may drop out. Now, I gave you a stream title a few days ago that was like, will Trump drop out? But really what I was saying is that he should. That if he cared about the party, if he cared about his voters, right? The best chance for the Republican Party to retain, to gain power in this election would be to have somebody besides Trump. That's all I was saying. Scaramucci's trying to be like, yeah, he might drop out. I don't think he will.
Fight against that with every fiber of my body. We don't need to be run.
Wait, didn't his blood boy fall from a high building? I thought Trump was a billionaire. He's never proven it. He might, if he's a billionaire, he's barely a billionaire. He's not as successful as people think he is. He's had a number of businesses that have not done so well. He did well as a, reality star, but that's about it.
By billionaire know-it-alls, wise ass, smart ass, people who got their asses kicked in high.
His voters want him, yeah, but if they want to win, want him. So, but they're going to get Kamala Harris. If they run him, see, like I went over this before, right? The Democrats, some of them want Joe Biden. But if they run Joe Biden, they get Donald Trump. All right? So then they say, I don't want Joe Biden. And Joe Biden, gets pressured to acknowledge that he's unable to do the job as a presidential candidate. He's unable to communicate. And the running for this office is all about communication. So Joe Biden steps down, and now the Democrats have a better shot at the campaign. I would say the same thing would be true of the Republicans, but I think it's very unlikely that A, narcissist of narcissists, Donald Trump, would step down, and that B, the MAGA faithful would actually ask him to do that, right? They want Trump. That's true. That's true. They do want Trump. But again, Trump may not be viable. And we're going to take a look at some polls next to show you exactly why Trump might not be viable.
High school. Okay, don't we need to be...
I think I've covered a lot of why Trump might not be viable. We were talking yesterday about his weird appearance with Elon Musk, where I don't know if he had a problem with his dentures, or, somebody said that he sounded like he might be having a stroke, right? I don't know what's going on with Trump, but he sounds bad. He is pronouncing words like he is Sylvester the cat, and I am not sure what's up with that guy. And there's a lot, there's a lot of self-harm done by Donald Trump to his own campaign. There's a lot of self-inflicted injuries to his campaign, and a lot of stepping on the rake. And that sort of tells you that he may not be up to the task as a candidate. And, and if he's not, because here's my theory, all right? The U.S., the majority of voters, they don't want a rehash of 2020. They definitely don't want a rehash of 2016, but they don't want to rerun Biden versus Trump. They're sick of Biden. They're sick of Trump. They know that Biden cannot, do the job. And they don't want Trump to do the job. They've seen what Trump does with that job. And they don't want to go back to 2020. That was a miserable year for a lot of people. It's not a year that many people want to repeat. So yeah, I mean, look, will he drop out? No, there's no shot. There's no shot. But should he drop out if what he cares about is the good of the party? If what he cares about is, the ideology that he represents, the MAGA ideology, what's behind MAGA, that he would be more likely to, the Republicans would be more likely to win the presidency with somebody else as their candidate. That's all I'm saying.
Run by those people. We need to be run by ourselves. We need to govern ourselves. We're very capable of doing that. We have a good nose. Lincoln said, some of these dummies in America think they're smarter than the other Americans. I think they know better. But what Lincoln said about America is we have a very good nose. We can smell a rotting.
Wait, the two teals have friends that have fallen from... Oh my gosh, Chad, I better not read this or I'm going to fall from a balcony. I can't say that. I can't say that. These are powerful people. I know enough to know that even talking about Peter Thiel may not be the best thing for my future, but I'll say it anyway. But I definitely don't want to talk about speculation about friends of theirs having unfortunate accidents.
Cadaver in our basement.
I wonder if Trump has been abusing substances. I don't know. Maybe we can ask President Sunday. He seems to be the expert at diagnosing people as abusing substances. So,
was the quote from Abraham Lincoln. And by the way, we can do that. And now that we have a good choice, Vice President Harris versus the oldest person to be ever nominated for the U.S. presidency, a doddering fool who's probably on the border of dementia. We have a good comparison and contrast, and I think we can beat him in November.
Speaking about a rotting cadaver.
Will, Florida, you speak the truth.
For one of the famous interviews you and I did together, you talked about Kevin McCarthy and that how you knew him originally as someone who had aspirations, who was actually full of life and joy originally, but how MAGA had sucked the joy out of him and he became a miserable person. You could literally see that on his physical appearance.
I said he started out with him and I the same age. He looks 500 years old. You know, Ted Cruz looks like Grandpa Muntz. I mean, these guys get destroyed because they're selling their soul to Donald Trump. But Kevin McCarthy will go down as one of the great cowards in political history. And so people will look back on McCarthy. He's the anti-Lincoln. He was the Speaker of the House at the time of an insurrection. And so I just want you to imagine, because you and I grew up out on Long Island. I'm an Italian kid from Long Island. Just want you to imagine somebody coming into your house like Donald Trump. So he's the Speaker of the House, and Donald Trump foments an insurrection on literally the guy's house, and they come in and ransack the house. And this coward runs down to Mar-a-Lago to have a
I mean, it is pathetic the way that McCarthy kissed the ring. It is pathetic.
With him, okay. All he had to do was punch him lights out through the ropes. He could have gone to Pelosi, McConnell, Schumer, and said, "Okay, listen, I'm the head of the Republican Party now. I've had enough of this asshole. We're going to impeach him in the House. We're going to convict him in the Senate. He's gone from the political system."
See, now, I don't know if this is true. Look, a lot of what Scaramucci is saying here, I'll be honest with you, is bullshit, right? Do I think that Trump dropping out would be good for the Republicans? Yes. Yes, I think that would be in fact, it may be the only path to victory for the Republicans. But will he drop out? I don't think so. And I feel like this title is just, it's the perfect clickbait, right? This whole video's existence is algorithmically driven. I think, I mean, as much as I wanted to, check this, it works, right? I wanted to click on it. It's a clickable title. Oh, what's up with this? What's up with this, right? But now seeing it, I don't know. I don't think it's a quality. I think they're just playing us, chat.
We're going to totally disgrace this moron.
Like, should Trump drop out? Probably. Will he drop out? Hell no.
Okay, and he would have scared the living daylights out of everybody and would have probably been the Republican nominee for president right now. But he couldn't do it. He's got the spine of a jellyfish.
You didn't have the guts, McCarthy. You got a spine of a jellyfish. You're like President Sunday.
Very, very weak guy. And he let
You're very, very weak.
At a time when we needed somebody to backstop the United States. And by the way, these guys hate this guy. Okay, let's just be on the record.
I'm sorry.
McCarthy hates him.
Sunday's got the spine of a squid?
Lindsey Graham hates him.
An octopus? Some kind of cephalopod?
Ted Cruz hates him. You pick a Republican senator, name his name, I'll tell you the guy hates him. Okay, but they sit there and they tolerate him because they fear him. And some political consultant got in their ear and said, "Oh, you got to be careful. Say something bad about Trump, you're going to get primary to your right. You're going to lose your seat of power." Who gives a shit? You should be saying the truth about this guy, even if it costs you your job. What difference does it make? Now, you're just like another slime ball, spineless politician. You know, Jack Kennedy wrote a book called The Profiles in Courage. You and I should be giving out the Kevin McCarthy annual Cowardice Award to some of these losers that have supported Donald Trump.
Is he saying the Cowardice Award or the Coward Ass Award?
Even though they know how bad he is.
Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Walz, talking about bringing joy back to politics, protecting people's freedoms. They smile when they talk. It's about hope, a winning message, Anthony.
John Tusher is saying the compression rate on X is what made the audio sound bad. Can you be a little bit more specific about that, John Tusher? Right, because I've got a compressor on my voice right now. I don't know if you can hear it. If I change the levels to something screwy, I might sound like I'm in a tin can or something, some kind of metal room. Like it can make the sound screwy, but I've never heard compression give somebody a lisp. So are you saying that Donald Trump's lisp, Donald Trump's the kind of spitting pattern of speech that he showed, are you saying that that is due to compression? Are you saying that is due to the audio settings? And also, come on, how much money did they spend on to make Twitter into a streaming platform? And they couldn't even put him on video.
I think it is a winning message. I think the style is there. If I were offering them any advice, not that they would take it from me, but I would recommend to the vice president.
First is saying using the dark side of the force can have physical symptoms like a lisp.
It's now
it turns you into Sylvester the cat.
Time to give an interview. You've been the presumptive nominee for 21 days. I think it was a totally very smart thing not to give any interviews. Get your feet on the ground, get used to this sort of intensity of this spotlight. But now I think it's time to sit for some interviews, and they can either do it jointly or she can do it solo. I don't know a lot about Governor Walz. I don't know a lot of people that I'm close to in the Democratic Party that really had a closeness to him. But it seems like his life story is terrific. I did say on my podcast, he's one of the few vice presidential candidates in history that could go on ESPN College game day and probably give you great color commentation on all the players. You know, so this is a very likable guy, and I think he has a good record. And of course, Donald Trump is on record praising him. And it makes it hard to really shoot at him. You know,
yeah, literally praising Tim Walz for his governorship during the protest in 2020.
And these nut jobs, right? So they're trying to go after him. They're trying to see, because he was a high school football coach, if there's some type of deviancy in his background. These nut jobs. You see what?
Oh no, like a Jim Jordan thing.
I mean, and that's projecting on their
like a Jerry Sandusky thing,
because you know there's a lot of deviancy in their backgrounds.
Anthony Scaramucci, the podcast is called...
Nope, I don't care what the podcast is called. I don't think that this is right. I think this is bullshit. I think that this is literally a video that exists for one thing and one thing only, and that's the algorithm. And they almost got 10 hours ago, 900,000 views. This is just algorithmic slop. That's what this is. Jerry Sandusky was at Penn State. Where was Jim Jordan? Ohio or something? Anyway, chat, I told you I was going to give you some... God, there's so much I want to cover. I'll have to save some of this for tomorrow. Wait, what is... Oh, God, is this more Midas Touch? Here, we can't watch too much Midas Touch in a row, or else we'll turn into libs. And I'm not trying to turn you into libs in here. I'm not trying to lib you up. But yeah, let's talk about the polls. How about it? So I'm just trying to give us a good title here. Trying to figure out which words to capitalize. There we go. All the caps. There we go. Caps locks. All right. Kamala Harris takes the lead over Trump.
Everybody, happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed, we do. A lot of interesting things that are happening this morning. We have new polls, and it's the New York Times Siena poll of several battlegrounds.
So, chat, if you want to know what a wonky compression rate sounds like, compression rate, that's the wrong phrase. If you want to know what a wonky compression filter sounds like, I feel like Breaking Points is a great example. I am not trying to hate on them. All right. But I do not like their, I don't like their audio settings, right? I think this is an example of what bad compression can sound like. I've never heard it make somebody's voice turn into Sylvester the Cat, which is what we heard from Trump yesterday with Elon. So not sure if I'm buying that from the chatter who mentioned that.
So this is a really important and very closely.
Fake news, cheating again. Lady to Love, what's cheating?
Watch one because this is considered a highly rated pollster. We also have some
Is Kamala cheating in the polls? Is that what you're saying?
Interesting polls from other sources as well. Break all of that down for you about the current state of the race. Meanwhile, Trump is really flailing.
Oh, you think the dude was talking about data compression? So then why didn't Elon's voice sound like that too? Okay, well, I'll play with you on that, Manocash. So data compression then. It was data compression. So, but how does that give you a lisp? How does that make you sound like Sylvester the Cat?
He bought into this whole AI crowd-sized conspiracy theory. He's still holding on to his former opponent.
I feel like we really need to talk about that AI thing. That's funny.
Joe Biden just can't let it go. So we'll bring you some of the highlights and lowlights from that. Kamala has launched a very hawkish immigration ad. So we'll take a look at that and what that says about her campaign.
Circuitry says, no, he really had a lisp. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. That's what, I'm not a lisp expert. Someone earlier was complaining. Oh my gosh, Chad, I gotta read what Natalie was trying to say.
Campaign, her posture, the way she has changed over the years, etc.
Firebird 710 says Jim Jordan was the trainer and doctor at the wrestling team at Ohio State. Okay, so totally different college then.
Rogan sort of endorsed RFK Jr. and chaos from the Trump.
Chaos ensued. You're not allowed to leave the Trump cult. It's a high control group, so to speak.
MAGA
Trump
world
freaked out.
ensued. Again, Trump flailing. Yeah. Trump actually responded to it anyway. We'll show you all of that. Meanwhile, in some very, very frightening and...
Why do we like Kamala? Well, we're not talking about liking Kamala right now. We're talking about the polls, right? And I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass about the state of the race and who's winning and who's not winning, right? For a long time, especially when Biden was the nominee, the Democrat, for like a year, the Democrats have been losing and losing pretty badly. Like if the, election had been held anytime between like October and I don't know, July, maybe even the beginning of August, right? You would have had Trump elected. Unfortunately, though, for the Republicans, that is not the date of the election. The election is in November, and at present, we have Kamala taking the lead.
Quite dire.
But good question.
Ukraine has actually invaded Russia. It's gotten very little attention in terms of the news media, very little attention in terms of, asking these various candidates what they think about that and where we're going from here. So we'll take a look at that. Israel is...
I'm sorry, I've never heard this before. Heels up Harris? Is that supposed to be like a slut shaming? Is that the idea?
Still awaiting what Iran's response to Israel's latest provocation may be. There are some developments in terms of potential ceasefire. Meanwhile, Israel continues to slaughter.
There's no way she passed Trump. Matt Gillespie, watch and learn.
Innocent civilians, the latest strike coming with U.S. bombs on a school where displaced Palestinians were sheltering.
Also, I want to be really clear about what we're watching here. So the last video was from Midas Touch. I called them libbed up. I said that I don't really trust Anthony Scaramucci. I said that I thought that their title was absolute clickbait garbage. This is Breaking Points. Now, I'm not saying I love this channel, but this is not a liberal channel. They've got two hosts. One of them is left wing, the other one is right wing, and they have a whole bunch of people from all kinds of political leanings working for them. So like if Breaking Points has a if Breaking Points has a leaning, I don't know what I would say it was. I wouldn't describe it as ideologically left or right. I feel like there are certain issues that they tend to feel a certain way about. But they, those vary as far as whether they're sort of leaning to the right or leaning to the left. So as far as characterizing Crystal and Sagar as being left-wing, I would not do that. I would not do that.
And but his emails, Trump's campaign emails, were hacked, potentially by Iran. Ken Klippenstein is going to join us to talk about what we could learn there, how the press may handle it, and whether, in fact, what are the indications of whether this was actually Iran or not. So a lot going on there.
Yes, that's right. It is, however, 85 days until Election Day.
Wow.
I think I'm going to continue this streak about the countdown clock. And next week is going to be the DNC, so we're going to be on the ground.
Natalie Marie points out that Breaking Points had a hella transphobic viewpoint when they covered the Olympic boxing story.
In Chicago, the whole team, we've got...
Yeah. If anything, there's a right-wing bias here. I mean, not like a huge one, but anybody saying that there's a left-wing bias. Someone was complaining in the chat earlier, asking you why you were platforming them. What, Midas Touch? Looks like I got some donos to read. Chat, if you super chat or if you get yourself a membership or gift memberships, anything like that, make sure to let me know which of the topics in the poll that you want to see. Right, that goes for you too in short stream. If you want to come over, I've got the link for you in the pinned comment. Right, the pinned comment, if you click on it, you can either go over to our Twitch stream or you can go over to the full screen YouTube screen and feel free to vote. Feel free to cast your vote for the topic of your choice. And if you donate, let me know which of these topics you're feeling, which of these topics you want to see, and I will put your money where your mouth is, and I will add percentage points to the topic of your choice. This is the bonus content, so this means that if we hit the goal, which I need to count up the super chat to see exactly where we're at right now, but I think we're like 80% away from the goal, something like that. But yeah, who was saying Sloppy Chris Christie? Yeah. Who was complaining about me platforming something? Scaramucci is wrong, says Circuitry. Even though his logic is sound, Trump's too much of a narcissist. Oh, I think I already read your chat, didn't I? Okay, well, apologies if I missed somebody's chat. I'm trying to keep up with 3 chats here. Breaking Points kind of sucks. I would not disagree with you. I have some problems. Midas Touch, yeah, I can see that. Like I said, they're a pretty lived up platform. I just wanted to. I'm sorry, I fell for the clickbait. I was like, "What do you got, Midas Touch? What do you got?" And I was disappointed. That was a completely click. That was a title made for the algorithm.
Special coverage planned. Premium subscribers, you guys are going to get a lot of benefits from that. So breakingpoints.com, you want to...
New York Times, Sienna, this is considered, a top tier poll. Everyone watches it really closely, and they polled 3 battleground states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, that old blue wall states. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. They show a pretty similar picture in all 3, which is Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump by a margin of 50 to 46. If you dig into this...
So now this is important, right? These 3 states... As far as the swing states go, so when we're talking about the swing states, and maybe they'll show a map here, we're talking about Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. Some people say that North Carolina is a swing state. Some people say that the Democrats have a chance in North Carolina. I think less of a chance than most of the other states. But these are 3 states that were Kamala to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and then go on to lose North Carolina, lose Georgia, lose Arizona, and lose Nevada. She would still win. She would have 270 electoral votes and she would win that election. So these states are huge.
Poll and the other questions they asked, it's actually quite interesting. So put the next piece up on the screen. They asked people about whether or not these candidates have certain traits. So on has a clear vision for the country, you have Kamala at 53, and you have Trump outperforming her there at 60. However, on the other traits, Kamala outperforms Trump. So has the temperament to be an effective president, Kamala's at 54, Trump's 45, is honest, Kamala 52, Trump 41, is intelligent, 65 to Trump's 56, will bring about the right kind of change, Kamala 50, Trump 47. Sagar, that last one, I think, is in some ways the most important metric of where this race is, and it really demonstrates how dramatically it has shifted with the change of candidate. You know, Joe Biden, obviously, as the current president, was very much the status quo choice. And when questions were asked like that of him and Trump, Trump was vastly outpacing him. Now, with a new change at the top of the ticket, Kamala narrowly outpacing him on the idea of being the change candidate and bringing about the right type of change. Just one last piece, and I'll get your reaction to overall what this poll had to say. They also tested the presidential and vice presidential picks' favorability across these battleground states. Let's go ahead and put Pennsylvania there up on the screen so you can see, because I think this is another really important indicator, and this is pretty representative of what the net favorables were across each of these blue wall net battleground states. Tim Walz, very popular, plus 11% on net favorables. You still have a good chunk, though, who don't know who he is and are sort of waiting to decide what they think about him. Kamala Harris has dramatically spiked in terms of her favorability. She is now above water in these battleground states. She's plus 2% in Pennsylvania. Trump, he actually has also seen a spike in favorability. He's at -3, so he's not as high as Kamala, but this...
That's what a spike looks for Donald Trump at this moment, right? That's a pretty high... So what this is a split between unfavorable and favorable. Underwater means negative. Trump and Vance are both underwater. Harris and Walz are both over water, whatever, however you say that. And yeah, Trump has been maybe more underwater previously.
Actually represents
maybe his rally where he got that ear piercing, that high-powered ear piercing that he got at the rally. Maybe that has made Pennsylvania voters look at him more favorably. I don't know.
The peak of where he has been in recent times as well, which in some ways is a bad sign for him, Sagar, if he's at the peak of his favorability and he's still losing. And then J.D. Vance down at -11 has taken on a good bit of water since his launch. So like I said, this was fairly consistent picture across each of these states. And I do think that this is kind of a very important indicator, is regardless of, you know, where they're positioning themselves on the issues, et cetera, you have one ticket that's broadly popular and one ticket that's broadly unpopular. The Trump campaign obviously looking to try to shift that ground.
They're trying to shape it around. I should remind. I mean, +2 is one of those where I'd rather be in Tim Walz territory if I were Kamala Harris. And we should remember the Democrats, even with roughly a +2% popular vote advantage, can still lose in the Electoral College. What stuck out to me about New York Times Siena was actually coming to the previous polls, where if we saw Biden was down in Pennsylvania by 3 points there. So the swing of Biden to Harris is pretty unbelievable. It's almost 8 points. Keep in mind margin of error and all of that. But I think the movement, whenever we look at where the Joe Biden numbers were in Pennsylvania and previous New York Times Siena polls that I was just looking at across the battleground states and generally compared to now, we're looking at almost 8 to 10 points roughly for from Joe Biden's numbers to Kamala Harris. Nonetheless, that's a very, very big problem for Donald Trump, because it does show, and this is a previous hypothesis, that he has roughly a 46 or 47% ceiling. And that's always been the issue for him, is that where RFK Jr. potentially could be bringing some votes.
So what you're talking about when you say a ceiling, you're getting into the idea of a candidate that's well-known, like Donald Trump, a candidate that's been in politics for a long time, that people have strong feelings about, right? There's going to be less undecided people. There's going to be people that really like Donald Trump, and there are people, like I said, 30% of the country, at least hardcore Trump supporters. And there's going to be people that really hate him. And then there's going to be people that are, there's going to be less people in the middle, the more well-known that the candidate is. And especially a polarizing figure like Trump is going to have very few people swinging from supporting him to not supporting him. So when we're talking about the ceiling, we're talking about the highest he could go in any situation is around 45, which, I mean, I guess you could win an election like that. You know, if RFK took a bunch of votes from Kamala, maybe there was a bunch of third-party candidates in there taking votes, then you could see somebody win with 45%. It's just not very likely. And again, that's the ceiling. That is if Trump gets all of the swing voters that he can. All of the people that are open for voting for Trump are voting for Trump. You're seeing Trump at 45%. That's a pretty low ceiling. And that really limits the ability of that candidate to win, you know, the general election popular vote. Now, important to point out, and Sagar mentioned this, is that we don't choose a president based on the popular vote. We choose a president based on the Electoral College. And when an election is close, you know, it's happened twice in this century that let me see. Oh my God, chat. I don't want to talk about 2000. And there's a reason that I don't want to do that, right? So 2000 was a year in which Al Gore did secure the popular vote and was not elected president. Now, it's not because George W. Bush won the Electoral College outright, although he did. It's because the Supreme Court stepped in and stopped the counting in Florida. And basically handed George W. Bush the election, and Al Gore let it happen. He did not protest, he did not fight. So 2000's kind of an outlier. 2000's kind of a black swan event. But definitely 2016 is an example of Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote by, I think, 2 million and still losing the Electoral College. So it can definitely happen, and potentially in either direction.
Away from Joe Biden, or Joe Biden having very, very low enthusiasm and a variety of other factors that he could win with a 47, 48%, perhaps even some disaffected bringing over to 51. But if you're getting an outright majority, that is a big problem. Remember, we're in an election where a net swing of only 100,000 votes is going to move the entire thing.
Yeah.
That's why looking at this movement, it's dangerous territory for Donald Trump right now.
I think that piece about her obtaining an outright majority is an important one.
Yeah.
Because back in 2016, even though Hillary was consistently polling ahead of Donald Trump, oftentimes she was still under 50%. And so it was a warning sign of, okay, but once people fully decide and, you know, they move off of whatever third-party candidates they claim they're going to support, et cetera, how is this going to work out? And, you know, that's how Trump was able to narrowly eke out the Electoral College victory over Hillary Clinton. So here, when you see Kamala at 50%, in all of these battleground states, and not all that many people saying that they're undecided, obviously that's got to be a concern for the Trump campaign. Now, of course, all the caveats in the world. These similar polls showed Joe Biden with quite a substantial lead in 2020 at this time. He won, right? So, you know, he did enough to get over the finish line.
I mean,
but
look,
they definitely undercounted.
The biggest caveat is that we still have, I don't know, what is it? It's like at least 85 days until the election. And a lot can happen. Remember all that's happened when I was surprised and I looked back and to see, like, when was the Republican convention? And it's like, oh, a month ago. When was Trump, you know, when was the campaign event where he got his ear pierced, right? About a month ago. So much has changed. We have a completely different election now compared to then. And, you know, granted, that's a major shakeup in the campaign, replacing Kamala, replacing Trump or replacing Biden with Kamala is a major shakeup. And like I said, it's not likely that you're going to see that same shakeup happen in the Republican Party. I think it would be smart for the Republican Party, but they're not going to do what's smart. Donald Trump is not going to do what's smart. He's going to do what feeds his ego. He's going to do what gives him the best chance of staying out of jail, and he's probably going to stay in. So that kind of shakeup's not going to go on, but you know, anything could happen. Anything could happen, and you know, you shouldn't make the assumption that the polls 80 days out, 85 days out are going to reflect the eventual results of the election.
Trump support. They undercounted Trump support in 2016. In 2022, it went the other direction, but then again, Trump wasn't on the ballot.
Work Appropriate says all the presidential elections from 2000 to present, Dems have won the popular vote. What about 2004?
So that's always important to keep in mind. But part of why this New York Times Siena poll is so significant, as Sagar was alluding to, some of their polling that came out while Joe Biden was still in the race was part of the more compelling argument of why he needed to go.
Yeah.
Because when even a poll, because he was doing the whole poll denial thing that now the Trump team is adopted of, oh, our polls show something different. We don't buy these fake polls. We don't think that they're correct. That's not what our data is showing, et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah, the sad thing about the recognition that polls aren't as reliable as they used to is it does allow a struggling, flailing presidential candidate and campaign to cope, to tell themselves that actually they're undercounting our votes. And you don't know that. They could be undercounting the other side's votes just as easily.
It's pretty hard to deny, this particular pollster because of their track record and how much they're respected.
It's a pretty, reliable.
So a lot that's interesting there. One other thing before we move on to some interesting numbers about who people trust on the economy. I think it was Nate Silver that made this point. Generic Democrat does well against Trump, does well against the Republican Party in general, and always has. And Kamala is not exactly a generic Democrat. She's obviously been in the public eye. People have a lot of feelings about her, et cetera. But she is really trying to occupy that space of generic Democrat. And, that's the way the ticket is trying to shape and position themselves. And listen, that's actually pretty formidable against the Republican Party, and especially a candidate like Trump, who remains broadly, his favorability has gone up as well, post-assassination attempt, et cetera, but in general, he is underwater in terms of popularity.
It's a problem, and this is where, both media and Kamala's inability or unwillingness to sit for long-form interviews to even put
Now, I'm going to say something, I'm going to add something to what they said, right? Trump's favorability has gone up since the ear piercing happened. Yes. But favorability, I think, is a lagging indicator. And I think that even the polls are like, right, what we haven't seen is the effect of Donald Trump's campaign fuck-ups. I don't know what else to call them. The effects of comparing your crowd size at January 6th to the crowd size at Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. The effects of the weird racial attack on Kamala Harris's blackness, right? We haven't seen what effects those will have on Trump's favorability. And I have a feeling they'll be negative. I don't know how powerful they'll be. I don't know how strong they'll be. But I can tell you they'll be negative.
Public and adversarial eye.
Choki says Sagar used to work for the Trump administration. He's far right. He hates China particularly, but I've not watched them for years. Crystal is kind of a typical progressive. Yeah, with a little bit of like anti-id poll thrown in there too.
Only doing rallies, basically adopting.
She's a certain kind of progressive.
The same strategy of.
But yeah, but that being said, what the point is that this is not a left-wing news outlet.
Joe Biden and not being in any sense like challenged. That's and then you get a incredible media.
In fact, a lot of people in chat are making an argument that they're kind of lean more to the right.
Environment, you put those two things together and you're in the perfect position. You want to be as generic as possible. She's disavowed every public policy position that she's ever had, and it's like everybody is like, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. Let's talk about something else from several years ago, but we will get to that. This is perhaps the biggest problem I've seen yet for Trump. Let's put this up there on the screen. Keep in mind, this is just one, but movement is important. This is from the FT Financial Times Michigan Ross poll. They say voters who trust Harris significantly more with the economy than Biden. And it actually has.
Oh, that's wild, Chad. If you know the history of this kind of a polling question, you almost always see Republicans outpacing Democrats on this metric. And particularly with the struggles that people are having in the economy due to the inflation that happened post lockdown and kind of the greedflation that dug in, right? So that is to say that prices were raised because costs were raised, and then prices never came down when inflation came down. Price people are used to paying higher prices, and so a lot of places are just charging higher prices, right? Especially groceries. Groceries are a particular particular pain point. And so to see Kamala Harris trusted more on the U.S. economy than Donald Trump, to see any Democrat trusted more on the U.S. economy than a Republican is pretty wild. Now, granted, what we're seeing here is definitely it's got to be within the margin of error. Those are two very close numbers. But it shouldn't be close. That is this is a poll that Republicans almost always win.
Kamala Harris edging out Donald Trump.
And what you're seeing is that there are people that are saying neither, right? Under Biden, that when Harris enters the race, they say Harris. You're seeing movement from neither to Harris.
His trust on the economy. You could see, for those who are watching, where you had Joe Biden significantly underwater on Donald Trump, where Harris has actually
significantly, consistently, and this is the same. This is usually the same for any Democrat. There's just like Republicans brand themselves on being good for the economy. They've conned the American people into thinking that somehow Reaganomics works. When I say Reaganomics, I'm talking about, you might have heard of trickle-down economics. This is sometimes associated with neoliberalism. The idea behind that is, or supply side is another name for it, right? The idea behind that is to cut taxes, especially taxes for corporations and for the wealthy, has a trickle-down effect, supposedly. Now, this has never been shown because it's not true. Because it's just not true. You just got an ad as I mentioned it? Oh no. Or as somebody else mentioned it. Yeah. So I mean, this should be discredited. Even Ronald Reagan's opponent in the primary in 1980, who was George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush's father, made fun of this as voodoo economics, saying that Reagan's approach to economics amounted to a useless gesture, right? Like you might as well try to cast a magic spell on the economy, right? Kind of a racist way to say this, but it's Republicans. What do you expect, right? But even people on the Republican side just did not, and it was never true. But people they eat this narrative up. Oh yeah, you want to have a good economy? Yeah, I want to have a good economy. Well, you know what it's like? You got to put the money in the hands of the rich, because check this out. The rich, they're job creators. They're job creators, and they're going to take that extra money and they're going to be like, I got extra money now. Let's create some jobs. No, that's not. No, let's get another yacht. Okay. Let's put the money in savings. Let's invest the money. There's so many things that they would rather do than fucking create. Imagining the rich are just waiting there. God, I'm really rich, but I'm not rich enough. If I was only a little bit richer, I could create jobs. That'd be great. No, that's not real. That's not true. That's not how shit works. That's not how anything works, right? And so that's the reason that people tend to trust Republicans more with the economy than Democrats. And honestly, we shouldn't trust either, because they've both bought into a greater or lesser degree to the neoliberal consensus. They've both bought into a greater or lesser degree into supply side mentality. Hopefully that fever will break with the Democrats. That is something that they've sort of taken on ever since the late 70s, early 80s. It's not a position that they espoused. In fact, it's not even a position that the Republicans espoused. In between like the late 40s and the early 70s.
And more importantly is that the neither figure has.
Yeah, Choki says, remember how much money the wealthy made over the pandemic? Yeah, they did quite well.
Dropped dramatically from July to August. So I always bring this up because back in 2020, one of the best indicators of Trump support was not the top line polls. It was not polling averages. It was trust on the economy. It's something the Trump campaign would very often point out to me. I'd be like, hey, it says you're down by 15 points or whatever in Wisconsin. They're like, listen, the economy figure is traditionally much more trusted, and it's one that we are really relying on. And I think they ended up being correct, because they only lost by 60,000 votes or whatever. That was far more predictable, because it was genuinely more 50-50 back in 2020 in the midst of COVID, mania. Well, now today, where they had a spread of almost 11, 12, 15 in some cases, if we look on average, if this is perhaps an indicator, maybe they're not tied. Maybe he's only up by 2, maybe 3. That's still way worse than being up by 10, 15, 20, 25 in some
on
cases.
the economy, it's basically a jump ball.
Right.
And he cannot afford that.
And he cannot
He
afford
needs to
that.
have an
That's
edge
right.
there because
Yeah.
there are a lot of other traits about him that people do not prefer.
Right.
So you have to have a big lean on the economy to make up for that. And you know, it's actually quite fascinating to see the way that this is played out. Joe Biden did her the biggest favor in the world, number one, by naming his economic program Bidenomics. So it's like very closely associated with him and not with her.
Yeah.
Also by totally sidelining her. I mean, she's been basically invisible as a vice president. So she, it appears, got all the benefits of having the trappings and the station of the office and enabling people to envision her in that commander-in-chief role. However, because she was sidelined, people aren't blaming her for whatever things that they didn't like about the Biden administration. The other thing that I would say is, you know, Biden's favorability rating has come up too since he decided to drop out.
Really?
So much.
People love him.
This ticket, and now
People love him not running for president. That's amazing.
really clear was just about this guy being really, really old. And that was, you know, that's an entirely legitimate concern and perspective. Apparently, even the president himself came to agree with that assessment. So, you know, the
I look very educated. Thank you, Gary.
fact that people believe she will do better on the economy, they are not tying her to whatever, you know, the most unpopular positions of this administration or performance of this administration was.
Lol.
I feel like she represents more of a positive change than Donald Trump, even though she is, you know, part of the administration right now. These are all extraordinary things that I would not necessarily have predicted. But also, Sagar, I mean, the Trump campaign.
Angel Martinez says, Rando, scrolling through the shorts. I am very glad Karras and Waltz are very much pushing through what would have been the worst election cycle in modern American history. I agree. Actually having some hope. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And chat, I'm gonna read donos in just a second. Remember, if you donate, whether it's through Super Chat, Super Sticker, if you're getting yourself a membership or gifting memberships, if you're signing up for Patreon or you're contributing to the crowdsourcing that I'm doing on Throne to get better stuff for the stream, if you are getting yourself a sub on Twitch or even using a Prime sub to get yourself a sub for free or gifting subs, any of those things count as a dono. Let me know in the chat which of these topics that you can see in the full-scale stream. So shorts, if you're donating, make sure to head over to the full-scale stream and take a look at the options and vote for one. And let me know which of these options that you're feeling, and I'll put your money where your mouth is, and I will add your dono in the form of a percentage to the subject of your choice.
Campaign, they're going to try to change that. You know, their whole mission is going to be, at least through their paid communications, Donald Trump doesn't seem to be capable of doing a very effective job of pushing this message, but the paid communications will be very much about tying her to the less popular parts of this administration. You know, I think immigration is probably the strongest hit on her, the whole borders are thing. There was some testing we'll show you in a little bit from a Democratic group about which attacks were the most salient. That was the most difficult one for her to be able to parry, which is why she's already putting out some immigration stuff. Like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Again, absolutely caved to the Republicans in terms of immigration.
But right now they've got some work to do. And the other thing is, time is really short.
Yes, 85 days. It's not a long time.
While Trump is out here flailing around and still wishing it was Joe Biden, indulging in like insane conspiracy theories, the Harris-Walz team is, you know, been much more focused and on message. They're defining themselves. They're defining J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. And they're headed into a convention where most of the time the party comes out of the convention with a bump, then you're into Labor Day and you're in the final sprint.
That's
so
exactly
there
right.
isn't that much time for Trump and Vance to change the, you know, ground of this fight and be able to redefine what right now is a race that's slipping away for them.
Trump has really lost his edge. And I think, I mean, look, we can empathize at a certain point at a human level. It's probably dizzying. It's crazy for us. And we're not even running. We're not the ones who are actually in the race. You can't imagine probably what it's like to go from front runner back to 2016 insurgent status. I have been watching a lot of some of the MAGA influencers, boosters.
Wait. Did you see what Sagar just did, though? Go back to your insurgent status, right? So he's going back to, he's almost trying to write, and the media does this a lot, writing narratives, right? So if you're somebody that wants to see the right win or the left lose or whatever, one way to do that, if your candidate's down, is like, well, he's just going back to, he was always an underdog. Back when he was in his prime, people thought that Trump would never win. He had no chance. The juggernaut that is the Hillary Clinton political machine was just going to roll over this guy, and he won anyway, despite all the odds, right? He's trying to write that narrative already.
And others. And the ones who are...
Be really careful about narratives, right? You should be really skeptical about narratives. This is one of the biggest things about media literacy, is that a lot of the press are trying to sell you a narrative. And it's not necessarily something that you want to buy.
Honest are like, okay, we're in a knife fight now. Now we're back to 2016.
Yeah.
We're the underdog at this point. You have the entire media apparatus against us. You have a unified Democratic Party, very much like they had under Hillary Clinton in 2016. You had the same level of the unification of really the party establishment of the Democrats from that time period. And this time we're going to have to fight just like we did last time. The problem is Trump is a different man from that time around.
Yeah, that's
he doesn't have the same almost freewheeling nature. His campaign today is a balloon that includes the RNC, that includes donors and all these other things. He needs to be unburdened by what has been. I actually think he needs to return to the scrappy staff of like 10 people sitting in Trump Tower. And it turns out that was one of the most potent political forces in modern American history. I almost think he's being weighed down by being, in some ways, the Republican establishment today, where previously his fighting instincts of coming and beating the establishment for the GOP nomination set him up for victory in 2016. There are a variety of things we could talk about, both policy and just campaign as well. He doesn't have the vigor.
I wanna if I had the ability to interview Sagar, I would ask him if he thought that meme magic helped Trump win in 2016.
That he did. I remember watching that man.
Like, he's really buying into this fucking plucky Trump campaign narrative.
Crisscross that country every single day. It was shocking to even younger people how he could get like 2-3 hours of sleep, and he was doing all these rallies. And as president, he mostly kept up that schedule, but a lot of that is diminished. And the problem is that this dizzying, like finding yourself, like defining who we are, you don't have time for that right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, waste too much right now, because we are going to get to that, but put this up there on the screen. All the data in the world tells you and backs up what I'm saying. Here we have the Nevada poll. A new poll of likely Nevada voters found Kamala with a nearly 6% lead over Donald Trump. That is the largest lead for a Democrat in any presidential poll of Nevadans this cycle.
And I think I've pointed this out before, right? But Nevada is the state where policies like the one that Trump has announced in terms of, now Kamala's on board with this policy too, right? But the no taxes on tips thing is something that Donald Trump got to first. And it's the kind of thing that you would expect to really help him out in Nevada.
Why is this crazy? Because Trump was up in Nevada by a couple of points.
Yeah, and he was up to, right? This is kind of wild.
Yeah.
For
what's going on in Nevada?
Months. To the point where they were like, hey, we've got Nevada in the bag. Sure, it's going to be a battleground. We're going to have to spend some money. But the amount of money that I think that they previously had thought about having to allocate to Nevada, now all of a sudden we're in a totally different world. So your entire plan, your media plan, everything had to be torn up in the last couple of weeks. And in the interim period, you have all of this incredible earned media enthusiasm for Kamala, lack of scrutiny on the record, the fact that she hasn't done these interviews is the best possible moment. The only question is this the honeymoon period, or is it not? And it's just too soon to say, because I think the convention, the strategic advantage of their convention happening when Joe Biden was president, of them having that bump post-assassination and everything, and not having the same.
Choki says he loved campaigning then, not anymore. Yeah, good. That's true. They are kind of coping and seething, Iraq.
The same opportunity.
Yeah, we never got to see Trump versus Bernie. That would have been a good election.
To find Kamala Harris, to have the unified media paying attention to them, I don't think I can overstate how really terrible it is for the GOP.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alex J. Bray. I saw Trump as a middle finger to the establishment, but not extreme or confidently enough. In 2016, he could sell himself as that, right? In 2016, that was like a possible narrative. And I think that it's clear that he's part of the establishment.
they blew their convention already. And I mean, it's not their fault. Of course, they didn't know, but it's a major disadvantage.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, you know, they clearly didn't, even though they had long been saying they thought it was possible, even before the disastrous debate, et cetera, that they thought it was possible that they would pull Joe Biden. They clearly didn't really prepare. And Trump certainly was not really able to wrap his head around it. And he still isn't. In Nevada, you know, John Ralston, who is like the political guru in Nevada, I remember previous polls coming out under Biden where he's looking at this, he's going, not only are they going to lose for president, like Jackie Rosen, who's running for re-election in the Senate, is in trouble. There's a number of swing districts in Nevada. He's like, you just can't have this kind of presidential margin and think that you're going to be able to hang on to these seats or pick up these seats. So now, with the shoe completely on the other foot, it really is remarkable to see. And then also previously, under when it was Biden, you had Republicans saying, hey, maybe we're going to put Virginia into play. Maybe we're going to put New Mexico into play. Maybe we're going to put Colorado into play. Now it's Democrats who are positioning themselves to be able to go on the offense in states that were beyond what Joe Biden was able to win in 2020. The place where they're most clearly making the play and have the best chance of success is North Carolina. We can put this up on the screen. So this latest poll, this is from YouGov. This is an A-rated pollster also, has it tied in North Carolina. Harris 46, Trump 40.
So again, North Carolina is, I don't know, marginally a swing state. Sometimes people consider it a swing state. Sometimes people don't. You could say the same thing for New Hampshire. New Hampshire very likely will not be a swing state. It's pretty solidly leaning Democratic at this point. But North Carolina, for that to be tied, that's a good indicator, right? And now I sometimes get asked questions, especially on Twitter, about states like Florida and Ohio, which had traditionally been considered swing states. And if, you know, Harris might not win those states as well. Iowa sometimes gets brought up in this way. Things have changed, right, since those states were considered swing states. And they do seem to have really doubled down on a right-wing slide. Now, that's not in total, right? You do have Democratic politicians winning in those states, and you do have, I mean, in some of those states, and you do have, what am I trying to say? Things like the Ohio referendum overturning the abortion ban. But let me just put it this way. If Harris wins Florida, Iowa, or Ohio, even if she wins North Carolina, right? That's an indicator that it's going to be a very good night for Democrats, right? If any of those states, if any of those supposedly safe states for Republicans are overturned, you're going to see her put up some numbers.
46. This is a state Biden lost, I want to say, by about 1.8 percentage points. So it was not a lot, but it's also a state that, you know, Democrats, ever since Obama won it in 2008, it's a state that Democrats can come close in, but they can't really seem to get over the top. They're hoping with Harris's sort of newly reconstituted coalition that she may be able to pull off the state of North Carolina. And another thing that they've got really weighing them down there is the Republicans have a very unpopular gubernatorial nominee who in this very same poll was losing to the Democrat by 10 points because Mark Robinson, isn't that his name? He's said some wild things and it looks to be headed to defeat there. That can help drag down the Republican ticket overall. So, you know, I think it's...
Wait, sorry, what was that?
Mark really weighing them down there is the Republicans have a very unpopular gubernatorial nominee who in this very same
in where
be able to pull off the state of North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
Another thing that they've got really weighing them down there is the Republicans have a very unpopular gubernatorial nominee who in this very same poll was losing to the Democrat by 10 points because Mark Robinson, isn't that his name? He's said some wild things and it looks to be headed to defeat there. That can help drag down the Republican ticket overall. So, you know, I think it's still, you'd still bet on Republicans there. They still definitely have the edge. But now Democrats are spending money there and Republicans are having to actually protect that state when previously they were playing with, hey, do we go on offense in, you know, states that we didn't think we could have on the map before?
For example, if we look at the Senate.
Yeah, there has been a lot of bravado, let's just say it that way, in the Republican campaign. There's been a lot of attempt to expand the map, attempts to, you know, play in states that they thought might somehow be in play. States like New Jersey, states like Minnesota. Definitely, they are not going to be deploying any resources to Minnesota now that Tim Walz is the candidate, and I don't think they're going to be wasting any. I mean, Trump did, campaign in New Jersey and in New York, and you do see a little bit of a shift in some of those coastal states, right? I would call the shift the Anna Kasparian effect. One in chat if you know who Anna Kasparian is. This is one of the co-hosts of the Young Turks. They've been known as a progressive news outlet, a liberal news outlet for years and years and years. More recently, Anna has found a new love for right-wing positions and a new content strategy trying to play to right-wing audience with this narrative of will she, won't she? Is she going to leave the left, right? And I don't know how much of this is actually a content strategy or how much of this is her real point of view. She may have changed her point of view. A lot of wealthy, people on either coast, particularly like wealthy white people on either coast, are their viewpoints are sliding right on issues like homelessness, right? On issues where they should be looking, if they were actually progressive, they'd be looking at doing something for unhoused people, but instead more and more they're looking at doing something to unhoused people and seeing the homeless as the problem rather than homelessness as the problem. So you got these people are like hardening their hearts. That's how I would put it. And issues like crime, issues like homelessness are issues that are pulling them over to the right. That being said, it's not going to change the overall trajectory of the vote in California. It's not going to change the overall trajectory of the vote in New York or even states like even like New Jersey, right? It's not actually going to let the Republicans win any states. It's just going to let them do better in those states.
Race. It's very similar. In 2020, Tom Tillis, everybody thought it was possible that the Democrat could beat him. Cal Cunningham. Cal also had some of his own issues. But, Tom Tillis only won by about 2%, something like that.
Yeah.
1.5.
Just like the Red Scare girls? I wasn't thinking about people like that. But yeah, I mean, them too.
Roughly, that's not a great margin of victory. That's not what you want to be in a traditional state. Now, remember, another thing I've been continuing to try to bring up, North Carolina has significantly changed in the last 4 years. It has one of the most booming economies in the entire United States, second only to Arizona. They have had massive population inflow to Raleigh and to Charlotte in those urban areas. They have a lot of fundamentals, East Coast time, banking, lots of jobs. It's a good place to live if you're under 25 or so. They have high starting salaries relative to the other big cities. But what that means is that they will have a similar Georgia phenomenon or Austin phenomenon, where you have all of these people, largely from blue states, probably highly educated, or people with bachelor's degrees who are moving in and becoming newly registered voters. And that is just enough, perhaps, to turn the tide when we look at only a couple of 100,000 votes, which are the margin of victory. And, things don't have to go things can go a different way. If it rains, if it snows, whatever. Something could very much materialize a surprise there. Most importantly, what I just brought up about Nevada, where they didn't think they would have to spend that much money in Nevada or that much in North Carolina. Well, now you might have to spend millions just to win by 1 or 2%. That's a bad situation generally.
Yeah. So in other words, the Republicans need to win either Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. And right now, those are the states that Kamala's up by 4 in each of those states. Now, that's still close, but it's starting to slip out of reach. And so if they're spending so much money in Nevada, if they're spending so much money in North Carolina playing defense, it's going to make it really hard for them. They won't have those resources to deploy in the Rust Belt states, and they need to win one of those Rust Belt states.
Let's put the final one up there, please, on the screen. This was an Arizona poll. This was conducted after July 30, and this shows Kamala actually leading Trump by about 2.8%. And that's
wild, because like I told you, Kamala only needs to win those 3 states. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania to have 270 votes, right? Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina would be icing on the cake.
is in the U.S. Senate race. They have Gallego up by 11% over Carrie Lake.
Carrie Lake is still running. Wow.
So this is the other question. Is Carrie Lake going to be a drag on the Trump ticket? Very possible, considering how unpopular she appears to be.
Can you imagine inviting Carrie Lake to a party and you're trying to shut things down and you're trying to kind of hint to people like, all right, let's go home and we're gonna, and Carrie Lake is just out there, just still drinking. She won't leave. She won't leave, chat. She will not leave.
In the race in Arizona. The flip side of that for Donald Trump is that I saw a rally, I believe, with Kamala of some 25,000 people in a stadium in Arizona. That is astounding. Then they had to turn people away at the door. That's a bad situation.
Yeah, you're seeing that more and more. There's a lot of excitement behind her campaign.
In that level of enthusiasm. Arizona, similar actually. They have double the economic growth of North Carolina, what I was just talking about.
Would I be interested in talking to Destiny? What's up, Andrew? I actually have talked to Destiny a few times.
Inflow is...
The question is, would Destiny be interested in talking to me? And what would Destiny want to talk about?
Massive from California and from elsewhere. Their economy is booming, and Maricopa County, as we all learned in 2020, is that prime suburban white vote that Kamala and Biden are going after with everything that they've got. Highly educated, very like they want to come out and vote specifically on abortion. And then what did we all forget? What happened in Arizona just several months ago? That whole 1864 abortion ban and all that nightmare. You think if you think they've forgotten that, they certainly haven't. Millions of dollars in ad spend is there on abortion right now.
I'm pretty sure they have an abortion ballot initiative this fall as well, which could very much help drive turnout.
So ballot initiatives in general will drive turnout in a certain direction if an issue is popular and is associated with one party, right? So when you have something like overturning an abortion ban, a referendum to do that, that's going to help Democrats. I'm trying to think of an example of something that, if you have a referendum against a tax, maybe that might help Republicans.
And be, in a close race could be a determining factor. But yeah, I don't know if it's quite as stark as in 2022, where the Republicans nominated just a rash of candidates that were really...
LifeRock says, I wish there was a non-polarizing candidate we could pick, someone who can unite everyone together instead of more division. People got to live and live. Who would you nominate, LifeRocks? Who would be your perfect non-polarizing candidate?
Unpalatable to a mainstream audience, but you do have in some key states, Carrie Lake weighing down the...
Trump 1 billion views on X. Wow. That's an interesting platform. I do not trust those numbers. We know what a view is on X, right? You're scrolling through and you pass something, that's you watched it. You count as a view. Also, like a billion views on Trump talking like Sylvester the cat. Is that really a good thing? That was largely seen as a failure for Trump, both a failure for Trump, a failure for Elon, right? He tries to turn his platform into a streaming platform, and he first of all, can't get Donald Trump on video, and second of all, has all kinds of technical difficulties that he then copes about and says, I'm being DDoSed by the deep state. The deep state is DDoSing me. They won't let me bring on Donald Trump. They're afraid of what Trump has to say. Oh, look, you got 1 billion views. Yeah, Sylvester the fucking Trump got 1 billion views, right? And now America has a new thing to make fun of Trump for. I swear to God, President Lolcow, Rebecca Ray says, I think Nikki Haley could have brought us all together. Yeah, it seems like the Republicans really do not like Nikki Haley, though. I mean, some of them do, but most of them don't. LifeRock says, it's not a question of who, or for me, it's more of a question of someone who is able to lessen the gravity of extremes between the left and right. We're all humans at the end of the day. A lot of hate today. I mean, that's true. That's true. There's a lot of polarization. There's a lot of hate. And X is driving that hate, and X is monetizing that hate, and so many people are making money off of that hate. Hopefully not me, though, Chad. I don't know. Am I making money off of hate here? Maybe hate for Sunday. Okay, I'll take that money. I'll take the hate dollars for President Sunday. If you hate President Sunday, donate, super chat. Let him know. Let him know, chat. Let him know. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I said I would read the super chats, and I do indeed intend to do just that. Let's take a look here, what we've got in the kitty. That's what I call it, because I'm British. All right, so the furry one, super chats, $5. I found you through your coverage of the Cons and El Presidente beef. That's the Tyler and President Sunday beat. Liking your content. Keep it up. Thank you, furry one. Thomas Jerome Newton super chats $2. It's the mooch. It's the mooch. You're talking about Scaramucci there. We watched some Scaramucci just then. Thank you for the super chat as well. Thomas Jerome Newton also super chats $2 more by the business world. Do they mean Gambinos? Yes, I think they do indeed mean Gambinos. I think that's exactly what they're going for there. Let's take a look at shorts. Wow, that's weird. So other stuff is showing up here. Speedrunner, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Best mods on YouTube. I think so too. Hats off for the mods. Maltese Falcon Punch. I don't know why you're showing up. Was that like a member chat that you did? You're not a member, so maybe not. Why can't I name anyone in chat? Arg. I'm not sure. Are you on mobile? Maybe it's a problem with mobile. Sometimes mobile's a little wonky. How are we doing, chat? What does guck you mean? I've never heard that. Is that a thing? You're on mobile. You're on mobile. And you can't like at anyone. That's your issue. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, I don't know. We did implement some moderation from Stream Elements. I don't know if that would have had. Yeah, it doesn't look like at is. It just look like it's timing out or. No, yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery to me. Anybody in chat, or maybe it's a shorts chat thing, right? Because you can. I think the people in the full stream chat, you can at people. So yeah, let me add these up. And remember, when you donate, let me know which of these topics you would like to see. We've got, let me read them out for you. Let me actually switch over here and take a look at what we've got. Look at that. Look at that. Communist invading radicals.
Communist invading radicals.
1 billion views. Yeah, the entire Western Hemisphere watched Trump. That's right. That's right. What's up, One Great Earth?
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Okay, so I'm going to add... Let's see. I think we're up to 17.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
We're up to 17 out of 100 in our dono goal. I still need to hear from some of you.
But now there are freaking...
Your mobile chat keeps on freezing? Have to write... Yeah, maybe you have to write out the name. Try that.
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are
freaking communists invading radicals. Look at that. Like all the people that are subbing. Thank you for your subs. You are awesome.
Because it was so peaceful.
You are helping my channel grow. All right. You are making my enemies scared. They will fear me. They will fear me and my great numbers when I come over and mog them. And they think that they are a bigger streamer than I am. And I show them that my sub count is so much bigger. So much bigger. It's the biggest sub count ever. We got the big sub count in here. Anyway, chat, yeah, like I said, we are 17% of the way towards the dono goal. That is 17 out of 100.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Meaning that we are 83% from getting the dono goal. So that's still a decently long way. Again, how does this work? How does the dono goal work? Well, basically, it's that I've got bonus content available on every stream, and it's all contingent on hitting the dono goal, right? So if we push that 17 to 100, then we'll unlock some content. Now, what content do we unlock? Well, it's kind of your choice, right? And you can choose both by voting in the poll and also by letting me know when you donate which of these topics you want to see. I haven't gotten some people's choices yet. And if you've already told me, apologies, let me know again, and I will be happy to put your money where your mouth is. That is, I will add points, right? Like right now, Squid Tips versus Vosh is getting, oh gosh, it should say Vosh road rage against bikers. It's the same story, but so we could get some extra Vosh, you know, if you don't have enough Vosh with the content that I'm about to go into, road rage on bikers. That is what we got there. Yeah, so so far that's getting extra points, and that's winning. That's winning. So that looks to be possibly what we unlock if we end up unlocking it. Again, we're a ways away from it. So when you donate, whether that's a super chat, a super sticker, whether that is a donation or a sign up to Patreon, or you are contributing to the throne, which is right down there in the regular chat, right up there in shorts, to help me crowdfund a better setup. Right now, I'm kind of going for RAM sticks to make my computer run better, so that we don't have these technical difficulties that sometimes take the stream down. So that's your way to invest in the stream and make the quality of the stream better for everyone. So I really appreciate my Throne gang. I really appreciate my Patreon gang over there. You know, you help me keep the lights on here, and that is much appreciated. Also, Twitch, lest you think that I am forgetting you, there's a ad break at the top of every hour. Yeah, you just experienced one 20 minutes ago. It lasts for 3 minutes. It's unskippable, unlike the YouTube ad breaks. Unless you use Twitch Prime to get yourself a free sub, you use $6 to buy yourself a sub, or somebody's nice enough to gift you a sub. That sort of thing more likely to happen if you're active in the chat. So again, ask yourself, is it a dono that I'm making? And if the answer is yes, that's a dono, then you have the ability to be like, I would like my money to go towards Mr. Beast hires a PDF. I would like my money. God, I couldn't have thought of a better way to say that. God, that's such a sick story. God, we're always covering this horrible shit. This horrible shit going on YouTube. We're always, right? I want you to cover Black MAGA. I want you to cover J.K. Rowling's mold symbiote, right? And I will put your money where your mouth is. That is, I will add your donation as a percentage to the subject of your choice, and you will make that more likely to happen. You also push us further in the dono goal, further towards that 100% that we are striving for in order to unlock the extra content for all. So you be a big hero when you donate, because you're not just unlocking content for yourself, you're unlocking content for the whole stream. And I appreciate that, and other chatters appreciate that. Other ways to support me, for those of you who are not able to contribute financially, you should probably save your money. You should probably hold on to that. I don't want you donating if you need that money for, you know, something in your life to take care of yourself or your loved ones. You can always just give me a thumbs up, right? That helps me out greatly. It helps me out in the algorithm, and it also helps you out, because what you're doing is you're letting YouTube know, hey, YouTube, chatters like me really like this stream. And so YouTube, in turn, will say, oh, chatters like you. Chatters like you. And they'll look at your watch history and be like, you like this, 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 and this. And they're going to send more people in, right? So you're going to be like cloning yourself as other chatters. Kind of. It's kind of like that, right? But basically, you'll make it more likely for YouTube to bring in chatters that are just like you, for real, for real. So if that's interesting to you, hit that like button. And understand that I appreciate that a lot. Thumb gang, you are too powerful. Moe Nope, thank you for the gifted membership to Christian Strand. Christian Strand, this is something that we do when somebody joins the club. You've just been weaseled. And that's you just got weaseled. You just got weaseled, and that is definitely a good thing. Okay, so welcome aboard, and thank you, Moe Nope. Vote for New Vegas. Is there anybody else's votes who I'm missing? If I haven't added your vote yet to the topic of your choice, make sure to let me know, because I aim to please.
Because it was so peaceful up here.
But now they're freaking communist invading radicals. Who knew? I knew. I've come to expect the communist invading radicals, right? Other people, not so much. Other people are surprised when there's communist invading radicals. Like Cheryl Haney, are you surprised? Are you surprised to find communist invading radicals in this chat? Thumb Gang is an amazing... That's the best gang. Thumb Gang, sorry I'm poor. Don't be sorry. Thumb Gang is awesome. Did I put your gifted sub for MAGA? That's what I need to know. Yeah, thank you, Omega. I did not. I did not. I will correct that right away. So that's how it goes, right? If you when you donate, you let me know which of these topics excite you, which of these topics you want to see as bonus content. When we get finished, we got to do the drama section of the stream. That's what we're coming up on next. We're going to be taking a look at Vosh and, well, mostly card posting. This is a bread tuber. This is a video essayist, and he's made a video essay about Vosh. And, you know, this has been a thing, right? A lot of people have made video essays about Vosh. Not many of them have had like a noticeable effect. Not many of them are doing what they're attempting to do by kind of letting people know that, you know, Vosh has overall more of a negative effect on the left than he does a positive effect. Usually, you know, debate bros being who they are, they tend to like they tend to monetize this stuff. They tend to parody it. They tend to make fun of it, right? And we've seen that happen before. We're going to see if card posting, maybe card posting is different. Maybe card posting is is a meme regent, right? Card posting, I feel like, knows their memes. And we're going to see if they can dethrone Vosh with this latest video essay, right? It's not just about Vosh, but it's about Vosh's protege, one Alec the Gunter. And this is the guy that tried to take card posting down, accusing card posting of having, let me check my notes, a trans sex cult. And indeed, Chad, I've done the research, and it looks like card posting does not have a trans sex cult. That's a weird thing to accuse something of, but that's par for the course for the Gunt. This is the guy that accused a commentary streamer of being 14 years old, and then talked about how he thought the streamer probably takes it in the behind. It's just a weird thing to say, that you're gonna say that somebody looks 14-year-old and then speculate about their sex life. That's kind of a weird thing, but yeah, that's not the only weird thing the Gunt has done. He's also said that it's okay to be attracted to people that are underage. I don't agree, and most people don't agree, and that's why the Gunt has taken a little break from content creation in order to like let the controversy die down. But yeah, that's Vosh's, not so much Vosh's protege, but somebody that like wants to style themselves after Vosh, wants to be just like Vosh for real. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to take a look at that video essay. We're also going to take a look at the end of President Sunday's stream from yesterday, that fucking hate stream that he did on me. Chat, I haven't had a hate stream on me in a really long time, and I'd rather have it from Sunday than almost anybody else. I think that's fun. I think it's really fun to see how fragile Sunday is about his drinking, which was what he told me when he accused me of being on Valium, right? That is a Trumpian tactic that you do, accusing somebody of something that you feel is your greatest Achilles heel, that you feel is your greatest weakness. It's kind of a weird thing to say, though, because I would have never in a million years thought to accuse Sunday of, you know, abusing his beverages on screen. Many people have said this, but I don't know. I haven't seen him overindulge, and it's none of my business. It's none of my business what kind of and what amounts of you know, intoxicating adult beverages Mr. Sunday likes to partake in, but apparently he's really sensitive about it. That is what I get from the fact that he reflexively accuses other people of having substance abuse issues. So we're going to get into his shit as well, not as it regards me, because chat, I don't want to show you Streamception. I don't want to watch President Sunday watch me. Instead, we're going to take a look at what he has to say about the White Leaf Network, this weird impromptu meeting that he had with Westside Tyler's mods. What is that all about? What is that all about, right? And apparently it's about the White Leaf Network. Apparently it's more about Vosh. So, it's all about Vosh today. We're talking about Vosh. Anyway, I think we are ready to get going and transfer. So that means we're going to say goodbye to shorts. Remember Rick Santorum? Do not Google Urban Dictionary Santorum. I do remember what Santorum was. It's a frothy mixture, isn't it? It's kind of like a frothy thing. I see we've got some frothy mixture enjoyers in chat, though, right, Paul Weaver? Are you into that Santorum? Jameson, do not confuse mental health disorders with chronic onlineness and brain rot. Brain rot, that's what I'm exhibiting. It's called brain rot. Are you here for the brain rot? I hope you're here for the brain rot. We're about to rot your brains right now. So I'm going to say goodbye to the shorts chat, but I'm not saying goodbye forever, right? And you don't actually have to go, because what's automatically going to happen, or I don't know, maybe you'll have to click on it, right? You can click on the you'll be able to click on the other stream if you want to follow us and take a look at what we're talking about in the full scale stream. So if you want to come over and join us, there is your link right there. I'm going to pin it. There it is. It's pinned. And I'm going to end the stream, and you should have the link come up in, I don't know, find your way over to the full scale stream is what I'm saying if you want to hang out with us some more. So anyway, other than that, goodbye, and I'll see you on the other side when I'm raiding you into me. I'm raiding myself, chat. We're gonna raid myself. Communist invading radicals. There we go. We end that.